The morning sea is calm, but beneath the glittering surface, a war council is already forming. The light filters down in pale ribbons through drifting curtains of plankton, illuminating the silver gleam of baitfish packed into a trembling cloud. They move in tight, synchronous bursts, like a single living organ convulsing under invisible pressure. The source of that pressure is still invisible too, circling somewhere beyond the haze, clicking softly through the water. Then, faintly, the first signals come. Rapid sequences of ultrasonic clicks sweep through the shoal, bouncing back from every body, every fin, every scale. The dolphins are mapping. Dolphins are not hunters in the chaotic sense of chase and kill. They are tacticians, engineers of order in a world built on flux. When a pod encounters a bait school, they do not strike immediately. They read it first, measuring its density, its boundaries, and its behavior. Echolocation gives them the ocean's most precise radar, each click a sonic pulse that paints a three-dimensional picture of the scene. They can tell the size of a single fish, the spacing between individuals, even the direction in which the school's nervous system is about to break. Within seconds, they know exactly what kind of mob they are facing. Once they've taken the measure, the hunt begins like a choreography. Signature whistles, unique vocal tags that function as names, ripple through the pod. In an instant, roles are assigned. Some dolphins take position on the flanks, driving the school inward. Others form the base of an invisible ring, blocking escape routes. A few, usually the strongest and most agile, remain outside the formation to coordinate, cutting off fish that try to bolt into open water. It is an organized assault designed not just to capture prey, but to manipulate its movement, to sculpt chaos into geometry. In shallow bays of the southeastern United States, this coordination becomes an art form known as mud-ring feeding. Here, bottlenose dolphins work in tight groups, circling schools of mullet in water so shallow that a careless flick could strand them. One dolphin dives deep and beats its tail against the bottom, whipping up a ring of suspended sediment. The ring expands outward like smoke, forming a circular barrier. The trapped fish panic. They leap over the muddy wall to escape, straight into the waiting jaws of dolphins stationed outside. It is a stunning inversion of nature's rules. The prey, seeking freedom, jumps willingly into death. The precision of the technique, honed and passed down through generations, shows that culture exists even in the sea. Young dolphins observe, imitate, and eventually take their place in the rotating lineup of ring builders and catchers. Further north, along coastal shallows and estuaries, another strategy unfolds: strand feeding. In this technique, dolphins drive schools of fish toward the beach, using coordinated pressure waves to force them into the shallows. Then, in a burst of synchronized violence, they launch themselves bodily onto the mudflats, snapping up flopping prey before wriggling back into the water. The maneuver looks reckless. One mistimed lunge could mean death by stranding, but it is executed with mathematical precision. The timing depends on water depth, tide rhythm, and the number of dolphins involved. In some regions, birds like herons and pelicans have learned to join in, waiting at the shoreline to snatch up fleeing fish. What began as a dolphin strategy becomes a multi-species collaboration, a fleeting alliance of necessity forged by hunger. Yet these hunting spectacles are only the visible face of a deeper intelligence. Beneath them lies communication so complex that it borders on language. Dolphins' signature whistles are not random squeals. They are self-identifying calls that carry individuality and memory. A mother invents her calf's whistle shortly after birth, and the calf learns to recognize it as its own. Throughout life, dolphins use these whistles to maintain contact across long distances, even after years apart. In cooperative hunts, the whistles serve as signals, assigning roles, synchronizing movement, and even calling specific individuals by name. The effect is akin to a team of engineers speaking across a fluid architecture of sound. When a large school of fish is found offshore, the operation scales up. Pods that normally patrol separately can merge temporarily into superpods, fleets of dozens or even hundreds of individuals working together. These massive formations can span several hundred meters, herding vast shoals into dense, mobile baitballs. The dolphins use echolocation not just to find the fish, but to read the flow of the entire mass, adjusting their movements collectively like dancers following an inaudible rhythm. And when the fish are finally pinned against the surface, the water erupts. Tuna, drawn by the commotion, join the feast, slicing through the wall of baitfish like blades. Far from rivals, the dolphins and tuna become allies, each driving the school tighter, each taking advantage of the other's precision. It is not coordination by agreement, but by necessity, a temporary pact born from convergent hunger. In open ocean environments, where prey is patchy and unpredictable, dolphins rely on an even more sophisticated tool, social memory. Individual dolphins remember which companions specialize in certain tasks, those who excel at locating schools, those who drive them efficiently, and those who are better at interception. These memories can span years, allowing dolphins to reassemble effective teams after long separations. Researchers studying wild pods have found evidence of alliances, stable relationships between males that last decades. These bonds, built through shared hunts and mutual defense, reveal a society structured around trust and reciprocity, not hierarchy. Their anatomical toolkit matches their intelligence. The dolphin's streamlined body, dense musculature, and flexible spine allow bursts of speed exceeding 30 kilometers per hour. Yet they rarely sustain long chases. Efficiency, not endurance, defines their hunts. Echolocation reduces wasted effort, ensuring every sprint counts. The lower jaw, filled with oil-filled sinuses, acts as a sound receiver, channeling returning echoes to the inner ear. The result is a sensory system capable of resolving objects smaller than a coin in pitch darkness. Combined with acute vision adapted to both air and water, dolphins navigate their fluid world with precision that human sonar still struggles to replicate. Their role in marine ecosystems extends far beyond hunting efficiency. By concentrating prey schools, dolphins make them accessible to other predators, tuna, seabirds, and even sharks that follow at a distance. This cascading effect redistributes energy through multiple trophic levels. In essence, dolphins act as ecological engineers, not only consuming but reorganizing the dynamics of entire food webs. The mob they engineer is not only their pod, but the entire feeding system around them. Their intelligence also carries emotional complexity. Cooperative hunting demands social awareness, an understanding of intent and timing in others. Dolphins exhibit behaviors suggesting empathy and coordination beyond instinct. They wait for injured companions, share prey, and even exhibit playful mock hunts with fish long after feeding. These actions, while not strictly necessary for survival, speak to an intelligence that finds meaning in interaction itself. Evolution, in the dolphin's case, has selected for minds as fluid as the medium they move through. When viewed from above, aerial drones capturing the formation from hundreds of meters up, the geometry of their hunts becomes visible in full. Pods trace perfect circles, tightening like storm systems. Plumes of mud flare from the seabed, enclosing the panicked fish within brown walls. Then, in a sudden shimmer of silver, the center collapses, and dolphins dart inward to feed. Seconds later, they regroup and repeat, the circle reforming with mathematical symmetry. The process repeats until the school is gone, the sea returning to calm, the only evidence of the hunt, a faint sediment plume drifting apart in the current. This precision, this orchestration of instinct and intellect, is what separates dolphins from mere predators. They are engineers of the mob, designers of collective behavior, architects of feeding systems that harness both environment and species alike. Their success lies not only in strength or speed, but in comprehension, the ability to see a problem, dispersed prey, and turn it into a solvable equation of sound, movement, and cooperation. In every click, whistle, and tailbeat, there is design. And in that design lies one of evolution's most remarkable achievements, a predator that kills not through power alone, but through understanding. When the hunt ends, the sea resets to silence. The dolphins disperse, some rejoining smaller pods, others vanishing into deeper waters. The mud rings collapse, the plankton settle, and the fish that escaped resume their frantic schooling. Above, the sun glints off rippled waves, hiding all trace of the morning's events. Yet somewhere out there, another pod is already forming, another council convening. The engineers of the mob are never still for long. The ocean for them is both workshop and battlefield, and every ripple in the water is a blueprint waiting to be read. At first there is only the sea's hush, an empty calm broken by the faint slap of waves and the whisper of wind. Then, from beneath the surface, the rhythm of purpose begins. A shadow glides just below the light line, black and white curves slicing through the cold green. Another joins, and another. They move with unhurried grace, perfectly synchronized, like silent blades in formation. This is not a chance meeting. This is an orca pod, an apex society navigating through the depths, bound not merely by blood, but by knowledge. The ocean's top predator is not feared because of its teeth or size, but because of its mind. An orca pod is a civilization in motion, a living archive of strategy passed from generation to generation. What they know determines who survives. Every kill, every tactic, every hunt refined over decades, memorized and rehearsed with the precision of a military drill. Their legacy is culture, not instinct. Each pod has its own dialect, its own customs, its own preferred prey. Off Patagonia, the orcas are seal specialists, wave washers who ride surf onto beaches to snatch pups from the sand. Around New Zealand, others have mastered the art of shark flipping, turning predators into helpless prey with a single twist. In the frigid Norwegian fjords, families herd herring into tight, shimmering orbs, slapping them into submission with tail strikes before eating them one by one. Across oceans, their behaviors differ like human languages, separated not by species, but by learning. In the cold southern waters, the lesson begins with patience. A matriarch leads, her dorsal fin a tall black sail slicing through the surface. The younger members shadow her every move, mimicking spacing, speed, and silence. Ahead on a small ice floe, a lone seal rests, basking under a grey sky. The matriarch circles once, calculating the angle of approach. Her descendants watch and wait. Then, with a flick of her flukes, she signals the hunt. 4 orcas line up side by side, moving in perfect unison. They gather speed. Water piles ahead of them like a rolling wall, a miniature tsunami born of precision. The wave hits the ice with explosive force. The floe shatters. The seal slides helplessly into the sea, and within seconds the ocean is still again. The technique called wave washing is not instinctual. It is taught. Calves observe adults for years before they even attempt it, practicing on kelp or loose chunks of ice. They learn to gauge the right distance, depth, and thrust angle to create the exact volume of water needed. Too close and the wave dissipates. Too far and it weakens. A lifetime of learning lies behind every perfect strike. This is what makes orcas not just predators but professors of predation. Elsewhere in warmer waters, another school session unfolds. Here the prey is far more dangerous, the shark. Sharks dominate most ecosystems they inhabit, but orcas have learned to exploit a vulnerability invisible to the untrained eye. A shark's body relies on constant motion to breathe, and its nervous system is wired to respond to inverted stillness by shutting down, a reflex called tonic immobility. The orcas know this. Approaching silently, they bump the shark gently at first, testing its reaction. Then one grips its pectoral fin and twists. The shark rolls belly up, paralyzed, its gills motionless. The orca's jaws descend, not for the flesh but for the liver, a fatty organ rich in nutrients. Once the organ is removed with surgical precision, the carcass is abandoned. The young orcas watch from a distance, observing each movement. Soon they will practice the maneuver themselves, perhaps first on smaller reef sharks. The ocean for them is both hunting ground and classroom. This passing of knowledge forms the backbone of orca culture. Grandmothers, the oldest females, serve as the pod's libraries. Long after they stop reproducing, they lead hunts, navigate migration routes, and remember feeding grounds across decades. When a matriarch dies, it can unravel a pod's cohesion. In one documented case, a family that lost its leader began to wander aimlessly, missing seasonal feeding opportunities. Her memory had been their compass. The survival of the young depends not only on genes, but on the transmission of experience. When food is abundant, lessons become playful. Calves practice catching fish, often letting them go repeatedly, honing reflexes through repetition. They mimic adult hunting calls, sometimes clumsily, until their timing aligns with the pod's cadence. Older siblings act as tutors, chasing schools of herring into mock traps, while the calves attempt to corral stragglers. Every motion, the spacing of bodies, the rhythm of sonar clicks, the angle of tail strikes, is refined through imitation. The result is an animal that doesn't just adapt to its environment, but reshapes it. Sound is the orca's primary tool for coordination. Echolocation pulses serve as both radar and communication, allowing them to visualize the world in acoustic detail. Yet in the final approach of a hunt, the clicks abruptly stop. The silence is not absence, it is stealth. Pods coordinate sonar blackouts before ambushes, relying solely on memory and body language to maintain formation. The sea becomes still, eerily quiet. The prey, often seals or fish, has no warning until the attack erupts. It is this combination of communication and calculated silence that defines the orca's genius, the ability to know when to speak and when to disappear. Each environment molds a different culture. In Antarctic waters, orcas navigate labyrinths of ice, where sound ricochets unpredictably. Their calls are lower-pitched, optimized for distance. Off the coast of British Columbia, resident pods specialize in salmon, while transients hunt seals and porpoises. Even their dialects differ so dramatically that they rarely interbreed. To the untrained ear, these differences sound like random whistles, but to the orcas, they are identifiers, tribal songs passed down through bloodlines. Their cooperative hunts echo human military structure. Scouts search ahead, flankers maintain the perimeter, and the matriarch commands from the center. When prey is captured, the food is distributed according to role and hierarchy, with calves and elder females fed first. Such organization requires not only intelligence but social restraint. They must suppress selfish impulses for the sake of collective efficiency. This behavioral discipline, learned through years of imitation and correction, is why orcas dominate across habitats ranging from the tropics to the poles. Even rest follows rhythm. In the ocean, sleep cannot be total. A dolphin or whale must always keep part of its brain awake to surface for air. Orcas take this further. While half of their brain sleeps, the other maintains awareness, guiding the pod in slow, synchronized motion. Mothers drift with newborns pressed to their sides, calves still too weak to regulate buoyancy. The pods move as one organism, every movement shared. Even unconscious, their cohesion persists. To understand orcas is to confront the possibility that intelligence alone does not make a species peaceful. They are capable of affection, cooperation and mourning, yet also of calculated brutality. Some pods play with prey, tossing seals repeatedly into the air long after death. Whether this is practice, curiosity, or something darker is unclear. What is certain is that emotion and intellect coexist in them, fused into something alien yet recognizable. They are in many ways mirrors of ourselves, social animals bound by knowledge, ritual and hierarchy, capable of both compassion and cruelty. What evolution has crafted in the orca is a predator that hunts not by instinct, but by instruction. Their lives are a curriculum written in sonar and blood, perfected by trial and memory. Calves inherit not only DNA, but the accumulated experience of generations, the shape of a wave, the weak point of a shark, the silence before the strike. They are born into schools that teach not reading or language, but the art of ruling an ocean. In the dark waters beneath a grey sky, the matriarch surfaces again, exhaling a column of mist. Her pod follows, their dorsal fins slicing the calm like black sails. A faint whistle echoes beneath the waves, a call of completion, not command. The hunt is over, the lesson recorded. As they disappear into deeper water, the silence returns, heavy and knowing. Somewhere in the distance, another pod is beginning its own lesson, guided by the ghosts of mothers who taught them how to turn sound into power, memory into mastery, and culture into survival. They are not just killers, they are teachers. And the ocean, vast and ancient, is their classroom. The open sea rolls under an iron sky, its surface fractured by distant rain squalls and streaks of sunlight that pierce through like broken glass. Somewhere far below the waves, a chorus of distant calls reverberates through the water, low, resonant moans that seem to come not from a single throat, but from the ocean itself. The sound belongs to the humpback whale, one of the planet's most enigmatic giants. Each note stretches for miles, bending through temperature layers and pressure gradients, announcing the presence of a creature that can weigh as much as a passenger jet and stretch longer than a city bus. Yet for all its size and power, the humpback whale's most extraordinary behavior is not its song, nor its migration across entire oceans, but its strange and deliberate habit of intervention, a behavior that seems to cross the line between instinct and empathy. In countless documented encounters, humpbacks have been seen charging toward hunting orcas, swinging their immense pectoral fins, and inserting their bodies between predator and prey. The rescued victims are often not even of their own kind: grey whale calves, seals, sea lions, even fish. The phenomenon has drawn biologists, ethologists, and philosophers alike into debate. Is it altruism, misdirected aggression, or something deeper? A social reflex evolved from eons of protecting their own. To understand this, one must first see the world from within a humpback pod. A pod is not a permanent family like that of orcas, but a loose association, a temporary alliance of individuals that may last a season or a migration. Yet within these gatherings, roles emerge organically. When feeding, they operate with startling coordination. The famous bubble net technique is their signature hunt, a breathtaking ballet of air, motion, and sound. The process begins when the whales locate a dense school of herring or krill near the surface. A few individuals dive beneath the prey, descending silently into the dim green depths. Then one begins to blow, a continuous stream of bubbles that rises in a perfect spiral, forming a shimmering column of air. Another takes position below, releasing a distinctive low-frequency call, a trumpet-like sound that both startles the prey and signals to the other whales that the net is forming. Others position themselves strategically around the perimeter, driving the prey inward. The spiral tightens, and the water turns silver with panic. Then, in one synchronized motion, the whales rise. What follows is one of nature's grandest spectacles. Massive jaws burst through the surface, throats ballooning like parachutes as they engulf entire tons of fish-laden water. Pleated grooves along the belly stretch like concertina folds, allowing the mouth to expand to several times its resting volume. Seawater gushes out through baleen plates, leaving only the prey behind, a harvest executed with mathematical precision. Each whale plays a role: the net maker, the trumpeter, the closer. Cooperation is not optional, it is the engine of survival. It is this same cooperative instinct that may explain their defensive interventions. When a pod of orcas begins an attack, the scene unfolds with violence that few marine animals can escape. The killer whales isolate their target, exhausting it through prolonged chases, tearing at fins or flippers to cripple movement. Their communication is sharp and efficient, coordinated killers guided by sound. Yet when humpbacks appear, the rhythm changes. The giants approach not with random aggression, but with strategy. They position themselves between the attackers and their prey, swinging those enormous pectoral fins, each up to 5 meters long, with startling accuracy. Their tails slice the water like guillotines. In some encounters, they form a living wall, using their bulk as barrier. Observers have recorded orcas abandoning kills mid-hunt, overwhelmed by the humpback's sheer size and unpredictable aggression. Calves or seals find refuge atop the humpback's bodies, clinging to the back ridge as the whale arches to lift them from the reach of snapping jaws. Some researchers call it mobbing, a term used for when birds collectively harass a predator to drive it away. But in this case, the scale is mythic. One species of giant interfering with another's meal, seemingly for no personal gain. The most puzzling aspect is consistency. Over several decades, dozens of verified cases have been recorded across oceans, suggesting this is not an anomaly, but an ingrained behavioral pattern. The most common targets of humpback intervention are orcas, particularly the transient type that specialize in hunting marine mammals. The humpbacks seem to recognize their vocalizations. Acoustic recordings suggest that certain orca calls trigger an almost reflexive reaction. Upon hearing them, nearby humpbacks will converge, sometimes traveling miles to investigate. The response is not random aggression, it is targeted toward the sound of predation itself. One theory proposes that this behavior evolved from maternal defense. Humpback mothers are fiercely protective of their calves, and orcas are their greatest threat. An adult humpback can kill an orca with a single blow from its tail, but calves remain vulnerable for the first year of life. Over evolutionary time, individuals that responded aggressively to orca calls, whether or not the orcas were attacking their own young, may have gained a survival advantage. The instinct to intervene could have generalized, spreading across populations. What began as maternal defense might now manifest as species-wide altruism. Still, some argue it is misdirected protection, a mistake of instinct, where humpbacks respond to the acoustic cues of an orca hunt without distinguishing the victim's identity. But field observations reveal something more nuanced. Humpbacks have been documented ignoring orcas feeding on fish, but responding aggressively to orcas attacking marine mammals. They appear to recognize the difference. The decision to intervene seems deliberate, not random. Beyond their defensive tendencies, humpbacks display other forms of complex coordination that suggest advanced cognition. Their migrations are among the longest in the animal kingdom, spanning up to 16,000 kilometers between feeding and breeding grounds. They navigate using a combination of geomagnetic cues and solar position, returning to the same regions year after year with remarkable precision. Within these migrations, individuals rejoin familiar companions, an indicator of social memory. Their songs, too, evolve across populations, spreading like cultural waves. A melodic sequence first recorded in one ocean can reappear months later, thousands of kilometers away, modified but recognizable, as though the ocean itself is singing in rounds. Such capacity for learning and memory strengthens the case that humpback interventions are not blind instinct. Intelligence alone does not imply morality, but it allows for complex motivations. A whale capable of recognizing acoustic patterns, remembering social roles, and coordinating in group hunts might also be capable of responding to distress in ways that transcend immediate survival. It is a dangerous leap to call it empathy, but the parallels are difficult to ignore. From a broader ecological perspective, these interventions play a quiet but significant role in balancing predator-prey dynamics. By disrupting orca hunts, humpbacks indirectly protect populations of smaller marine mammals, preventing localized collapses. In ecosystems where orca predation has intensified, such as in parts of the North Pacific, these acts may even influence food web stability. Inadvertently or not, the humpbacks act as moderators of carnivorous pressure, imposing a kind of moral equilibrium on the sea. Underwater footage reveals the raw physicality of such encounters. A full-grown humpback, 30 tons of muscle and bone, accelerates with astonishing agility. Its flippers scythe through the water in sweeping arcs, producing vortices that buffet smaller animals aside. The white undersides flash like warning signals, visible even in dim light. Orcas, though faster, are cautious. A single strike can be fatal. The confrontation often ends in a tense standoff, the orcas withdrawing to search for easier prey. The humpbacks remain, circling protectively around the shaken victim, emitting low moans, tones that ripple through the sea like heartbeat echoes. Whether these moans are directed at the rescued animal or serve as social communication among the whales remains uncertain. But in their lingering, in their refusal to simply leave once the threat has passed, one senses something profoundly deliberate. It is as if the humpbacks understand that the danger is not over until the silence returns. Viewed from above, through the lens of a drone, the pattern of the intervention becomes clearer. The sea darkens where the whales circle, their bodies forming a protective ring. Inside that ring, a grey calf or a seal clings to the surface, surrounded by giants that could crush it accidentally yet choose not to. Each slow turn of a flipper generates a pulse of power, a wall of motion that keeps the orcas at bay. It is not a battle of speed or teeth, but of presence, the simple fact that nothing challenges a mountain of moving life. When the orcas finally retreat, the humpbacks disperse slowly, as if reluctant to leave. The sea settles, the tension dissolves, and the whales descend back into their blue world. Soon, their deep songs resume, echoing across the open water, part communication, part memory, part instruction for the next generation. Somewhere below the thermocline, a calf listens, learning the rhythm of its elders' language, absorbing not just how to feed or migrate, but how to act when others are hunted. In the end, whether their interventions are acts of empathy, instinct, or something in between, the result is the same. Life extended, predation delayed, balance maintained. The humpback whale stands as both predator and protector, participant and referee in the ocean's endless struggle. Its song carries not only across space, but through behavior, a living testament to the power of learned compassion in a world that rarely allows it. The image of a humpback rising beneath a fleeing seal, lifting it from the teeth of a killer whale, has become iconic. It feels like myth rendered real, a reminder that intelligence in nature wears many faces. Some hunt together, some protect together, and some, like the humpback, do both, rewriting the script of what survival can mean in the vast, indifferent sea. The ocean at dawn breathes with deceptive calm. The surface glows faintly with the first stroke of sunlight, a thin film of pink and gold over the deep cobalt beneath. Schools of jacks ripple below, synchronized and efficient, while spinner dolphins burst through the skin of the sea in arcing leaps. For a moment, the scene feels almost peaceful, an ecosystem humming in perfect balance. But beneath this ballet of motion and light, a darker shape glides silently. Its stripes blur with the moving water, its body almost weightless despite the tonnage it carries. The tiger shark has arrived, and though it hunts alone, it rarely hunts without company. In the predator hierarchy of the sea, the tiger shark is not always the initiator of chaos, it is the opportunist, the patient thief. Where others stir frenzy, it waits to harvest the aftermath. To follow a tiger shark is to learn that power in the ocean is not only about speed or aggression, but about timing and precision. It thrives on disorder. It feeds not just on flesh, but on confusion. Off the coast of Hawaii, pods of spinner dolphins gather in deep blue corridors to herd baitfish. They use coordinated speed and sonic pressure to compress prey into dense, writhing balls. The sea turns electric with movement, hundreds of silver bodies twisting under assault. It is during these feeding frenzies that the tiger shark begins to shadow. From the edge of visibility, it traces the outer rim of chaos, its senses tuned to the erratic pulses of panic. The dolphin's sonic clicks echo across its body, vibrating through sensory canals along its head and snout. To the shark, sound is touch. It feels the disarray, the sudden gaps where weak or wounded fish break formation. As the dolphins feed, they create what scientists call acoustic noise fields, masking the shark's own approach. The turmoil becomes camouflage. While the dolphins dart through baitballs in bursts of light and speed, the shark cruises slowly through the fog of bubbles and scales, collecting what escapes. Sometimes it lunges into the perimeter, intercepting stragglers or snagging fish too stunned to flee. Other times it turns its attention to the injured dolphins themselves, particularly those weakened by competition or exhaustion. It does not need to chase. It only needs to be there when the order collapses. The tiger shark's physiology suits this strategy perfectly. Its eyes, built for low light, can track subtle shifts in contrast, a flicker of movement, a pulse of reflected light from a wounded flank. Electroreceptive pores along its snout, called the ampullae of Lorenzini, detect the faint electrical signatures of contracting muscles. Even a heartbeat beneath sand or silt cannot hide from this ancient circuitry. But what truly sets the tiger shark apart is its omnivorous curiosity. It does not discriminate. Fish, squid, sea turtles, seabirds, garbage. It all registers as potential information, potential energy. This generalist appetite, often mocked in popular myth as the garbage can of the sea, is in truth an evolutionary advantage. It allows the tiger shark to exploit any disruption, any opportunity offered by the mistakes of others. Nowhere is this more apparent than along tropical beaches where sea turtles crawl ashore to nest. The moonlit shoreline becomes a biological pilgrimage, with hundreds of turtles hauling themselves out of the surf to dig nests in the sand. For predators, it is a seasonal feast. The tiger shark, guided by smell and vibration, patrols the shallows just beyond the breaking surf. It cannot reach the turtles on land, but it does not have to. When the nesting is done, the ocean fills with returning females, heavy, exhausted, their energy reserves depleted. And in the days that follow, the hatchlings emerge, thousands at a time, a moving tide of miniature lives floundering toward the surf. From the shark's perspective, this is not predation, it is collection. The hatchling's erratic paddling creates tiny pressure waves that the shark's lateral line easily detects. The water trembles with signatures of chaos, like static on a radio channel. One pass through the shallows can yield dozens of meals. Scientists observing these feeding events have noted that the sharks rarely strike with aggression. Instead, they glide through, mouths open, absorbing clusters of prey as if sweeping up debris. This efficient feeding mirrors scavenging, but it is driven by acute sensory targeting. The tiger shark, unlike many of its kin, has learned that effort is waste. Sometimes the sharks arrive not just for turtles, but for the whales. In regions where humpbacks or sperm whales gather to feed or carve, tiger sharks take on the role of what biologists call secondary predators. They do not attack the giants directly, but rather linger at the periphery of activity, ready to capitalize on injury or afterbirth. When a whale dies, whether from age, birth complications, or orca attack, the carcass becomes a floating banquet. The first arrivals are usually scavenging fish and deep-water sharks, but soon the tiger sharks come. Their arrival marks a shift from passive decay to organized consumption. Approaching from below, the tiger shark circles slowly, assessing the carcass. Its first bites are exploratory, testing tissue density, locating weak points near the fins and jaw. Once it finds a soft entry, it bites deep and twists, using its entire body as a lever. The act is not just feeding, it is disassembly. The shark's serrated teeth, designed like saw blades, rip through connective tissue, creating openings for smaller scavengers. In this way, the tiger shark becomes both consumer and facilitator, accelerating the decomposition process and redistributing nutrients back into the ecosystem. Marine biologists have documented this pattern across oceans. Tiger sharks consistently arrive after the killers, the first to follow after orcas finish their work. It is as if an invisible script governs these interactions, an ecological relay where one predator's violence becomes another's sustenance. The tiger shark has evolved to read this script, to sense the cues of aftermath. Even in the open ocean, it follows migrating whale pods at a distance, using olfactory plumes to trace their paths. The trail of birth fluids, defecation, or dead skin becomes a chemical map leading it to opportunity. Such behavior challenges the notion of the shark as a mindless hunter. The tiger shark's intelligence lies not in cunning, but in awareness, a sensitivity to context, to cause and consequence. In experimental studies, tagged individuals have been shown to adjust their movement patterns seasonally, aligning their routes with turtle nesting periods, dolphin migrations, and even fishing vessel traffic. They understand in a primal way where disturbance equals reward. When seen through this lens, the tiger shark is not an agent of chaos, but a regulator of it. By consuming carcasses, it prevents disease spread. By feeding on weak or injured animals, it strengthens gene pools. Its predation keeps populations dynamic and ecosystems efficient. Yet it remains misunderstood, a creature too opportunistic to earn admiration, too adaptable to fit the mold of a noble predator. There is a dark poetry to its existence. It is the shadow that follows movement, the silent partner to every act of creation and destruction in the sea. When dolphins herd fish, the tiger shark waits for what slips through the net. When turtles rise to nest, it patrols the edges for what falters on the return. When whales give life or lose it, the shark drifts in afterward, cleaning the remnants of miracle or tragedy alike. It is the janitor, the thief, the recycler, the opportunist, the quiet counterpoint to the ocean's spectacle. To watch a tiger shark move through clear shallows is to witness efficiency incarnate. It glides without wasted motion, propelled by slow sweeps of its tail. Its stripes, dark vertical bands fading across a grey body, act as camouflage, breaking its outline against refracted light. In murky water, it is invisible until it is too late. In open sea, it becomes part of the moving current, indistinguishable from shadow. Evolution has stripped away excess, leaving only what works. Its metabolism is slow, its senses acute, its hunger measured rather than frantic. Even its reproduction follows the rhythm of patience. Females carry their young for over a year, giving birth to live pups already armed with teeth. These juveniles begin life not as helpless infants, but as miniature predators, independent from the moment they swim free. Many will not survive, but those that do inherit not just the body of a hunter, but the instinct of an observer, tuned to the disturbances of others. As the sun climbs higher, the feeding frenzy of dolphins subsides. The water calms, silver scales drift like snow. And from the depths, the tiger shark ascends through the fading turbulence, its path deliberate, unhurried. It takes one last slow circuit through the aftermath, snapping up what remains before vanishing into blue water once more. The dolphins have already moved on, the turtles will nest again next season, and the whales will migrate to colder seas. But somewhere, always at the edge of visibility, the tiger shark follows, never first to strike, never last to feed, always the unseen partner in the ocean's endless exchange of life and death. The open ocean begins where the color of blue stops having meaning. Beneath the shifting mirror of the surface lies an endless expanse without boundary, without anchor, ruled by creatures designed for motion rather than territory. Here, where light fades into distance rather than depth, one of the most extraordinary engines of evolution operates in perpetual overdrive, the tuna. Sleek, metallic, and relentless, these fish are the ocean's equivalent of fighter jets, built not for stealth but for pursuit. Yet what makes them remarkable is not just speed. It is cooperation, precision, and an almost mechanical efficiency in turning chaos into geometry. To witness tuna hunting is to watch order emerge from turbulence. From above, the scene begins as a shimmer, a pulse of silver beneath the surface, flashes of scales twisting like mirrors in sunlight. Suddenly, the water detonates. Seabirds plunge in screaming arcs from the sky, dolphins slice upward from below, and between them the tuna ignite into motion. The three species, bird, mammal, and fish, form a temporary alliance, each exploiting the other's senses and momentum. The dolphins use sonar to locate prey, the birds act as aerial scouts, and the tuna, hundreds of torpedoes of living metal, take the kill zone itself. This synchronized assault forms one of the ocean's most complex multi-species partnerships. The target is usually a baitball, a school of anchovies, sardines, or mackerel condensed by fear into a trembling sphere. To the human eye, the coordination seems spontaneous, almost telepathic. But beneath the spectacle lies a series of precise biological calculations. Tuna do not simply rush the prey, they manipulate the water itself. A baitball, dense as it appears, has structure. Within it, each fish attempts to move toward the center, seeking safety in the confusion of neighbors. The result is a self-organizing swarm, imperfect, fluid, but stable enough to resist small-scale attacks. The tuna's genius lies in breaking that stability. Approaching at speeds that can exceed 70 kilometers per hour, the predators form a moving perimeter around the bait ball, then sweep inward in bursts. The pressure of their passage alters flow patterns, creating localized vortices that shear through the prey formation. Panic ripples outward, compressing the swarm even tighter, exactly what the tuna intend. A tighter ball means less escape. To maintain such precision, tuna rely on a suite of adaptations that verge on the miraculous. Their bodies are warm-blooded, an exceedingly rare trait among fish. Through a network of heat-exchanging blood vessels known as the rete mirabile, they retain metabolic heat generated by continuous muscle activity. This allows their core temperature to remain several degrees above the surrounding water, granting explosive power even in the cold mid-depths. Endothermy in the open sea is nothing short of supercharged evolution. It means their muscles respond instantly, their reflexes stay sharp, and their brains function at peak speed, while other fish slow into torpor. But speed alone cannot explain their dominance. The hydrodynamics of the tuna's form are among the most refined in nature. Their bodies taper like bullets, coated in microscopic scales that reduce drag. The dorsal and pectoral fins retract into slots when sprinting, transforming the fish into a seamless torpedo. Even the tail, the lunate, crescent-shaped fin that scythes through the water, acts like a propeller blade, generating thrust without turbulence. Researchers studying their motion through high-speed imaging have noted that a tuna's efficiency approaches that of advanced human-engineered submarines. Every flick of its tail converts almost all muscle energy into forward motion. There is no waste, no hesitation. When working with dolphins, this efficiency turns collective. The dolphins herd schools from below, corralling them upward through sonar-driven intimidation. Above, seabirds plunge repeatedly, stabbing into the swarm to feed, but also forcing it to stay near the surface. Between the two, the tuna strike from the sides, using the confined vertical space to maximize chaos. This is where their thermoregulated physiology shines brightest. While dolphins must surface to breathe and birds must rest after each dive, the tuna can remain in the crush zone indefinitely, maintaining high speed without overheating. They pin the bait ball against the thermocline, that invisible layer of water where temperature drops sharply with depth. To small fish, the thermocline is a barrier, a cold trap that slows escape. To tuna, it is a wall. By forcing prey downward toward it, they create a prison of gradients, heat above, chill below, death all around. A single strike lasts seconds. The tuna accelerate with tail beats so rapid that the surrounding water foams white. They tear through the bait ball in synchronized bursts, each taking only what passes within reach. There is no frenzy, no waste. The prey density diminishes with each pass until the swarm collapses. Then, as suddenly as they arrived, the tuna vanish into the blue, leaving only drifting scales and circling gulls to mark the end. These coordinated hunts occur across ocean basins, following migratory patterns linked not to geography, but to temperature fronts and prey movement. Satellite tracking has revealed that tuna populations, bluefin, yellowfin, and skipjack, trace the boundaries between warm and cold currents like migratory birds follow wind corridors. Where two temperature masses meet, plankton bloom, small fish follow. The tuna follow them. They are biological extensions of climate itself, living thermometers of the sea. The interplay between their physiology and environment extends even deeper. Their red muscle concentrated along the flanks is rich in myoglobin, an oxygen-binding protein that fuels endurance. This muscle works continuously, powering long-distance cruising across entire oceans. The paler white muscle, concentrated toward the core, provides the explosive bursts that define their attacks. Together, these systems allow a tuna to function both as a marathon swimmer and a sprinter, shifting from transoceanic migrations to split-second strikes with seamless ease. Few vertebrates, aquatic or terrestrial, can match this dual capacity. But perhaps the most remarkable aspect of tuna behavior is not speed or efficiency, but flexibility. They do not always hunt in massive shoals or alongside dolphins. In deeper pelagic zones where light fades and birds cannot reach, solitary tuna shift tactics. They rely on acoustic cues, faint drumming from schools far ahead to locate prey. Using their lateral line system, they can detect pressure waves from hundreds of meters away, allowing them to home in on disturbances invisible to the eye. Sometimes they feed vertically, diving deep to chase mesopelagic fish that migrate upward at dusk. Other times they form temporary alliances not with dolphins, but with other predatory fish such as marlin or wahoo. In each case, cooperation is opportunistic, not fixed. Evolution has made them adaptable conspirators, Whatever increases confusion increases success. Even their sensory adaptations are built for such flexibility. Their vision is among the sharpest in the ocean, tuned to detect subtle shifts in contrast across the blue spectrum. This allows them to distinguish silhouettes against the glare of the surface, giving them a targeting advantage over prey that see in narrower bands. Their olfactory sense, though less refined than that of sharks, can still detect minute concentrations of amino acids in the water, hinting at the presence of injured prey. And when sight and smell are not enough, their lateral line provides the missing data: pressure, turbulence, rhythm. The result is a multisensory symphony of awareness orchestrated to one purpose: movement toward energy. The ecological consequences of their behavior ripple far beyond the hunt. By driving prey to the surface, tuna make food accessible to birds and smaller fish. Their predation patterns redistribute nutrients vertically, linking deep water productivity with the sunlit upper layers. When they defecate, they fertilize plankton communities that form the base of the marine food web. When they die, their carcasses sink to the seafloor, feeding benthic ecosystems for decades. In this sense, the tuna's speed is not only a weapon, it is a force of renewal, cycling energy across the vertical dimension of the ocean. For humans, the fascination with tuna has long bordered on obsession. We pursue them with the same relentless drive they show in hunting. Their flesh powers global economies, their migrations define fisheries, their disappearance warns of imbalance. Yet what is often forgotten is that tuna are not just commodities. They are architects of motion in the living ocean. Each school functions as a moving ecosystem, linking predators, prey, and climate in a network as complex as any forest or coral reef. In the final analysis, to watch tuna hunt is to glimpse the logic of the sea distilled into pure form. Efficiency, adaptation, cooperation, and the ruthless mathematics of energy transfer, all embodied in a creature that never truly stops moving. They are speed-made biological, heat turned into thoughtless precision, instinct elevated to choreography. As the day ends and the ocean reddens with light, the last baitball dissolves into fragments. The seabirds drift away. The dolphins vanish into deeper water. Only faint silhouettes remain, tuna gliding below the thermocline, disappearing into the dim blue corridors they know by heart. Their bodies flash once more as they turn, catching the final ray of the sun, and then they are gone. Wingmen of the deep, engineers of the chase, architects of a moving wall that turns water itself into a weapon. The coral reef at noon blazes with color and tension. Shafts of sunlight slice through the water, painting the seafloor with flickering gold and turquoise. Parrotfish crunch coral like living chisels. Clouds of damselfish shimmer in nervous clusters, and cleaner wrasses dart between scales like surgeons at work. But deeper among the ledges and caverns, in the quieter corridors of the reef, a larger shadow holds court, a thick-bodied predator mottled in bronze and umber. The grouper, broad-jawed, slow-moving, seemingly indifferent. It rests half-hidden beneath an outcrop, gill flaps pulsing, eyes unblinking. To the casual observer, it looks lazy. To those who know the reef's politics, it is something else entirely, a strategist, an opportunist, and in moments of brilliance, a recruiter. Few fish challenge the grouper's control of a coral labyrinth. Its bulk alone commands respect. Adults can exceed a meter in length, their muscles dense as stone. Their mouths open like traps, capable of vacuuming prey with a single thunderous gulp. But for all its power, the grouper is no sprinter. Its strike depends on surprise and position. In open pursuit, even small fish can outmaneuver it. Evolution's solution is not speed, but delegation. On this reef, the grouper does not always hunt alone. It hires help. The scene often begins with stillness. The grouper hovers beside a coral head, scanning the cracks and tunnels that lace the structure. Inside, smaller fish hide, squirrelfish, wrasses, or the quicksilver fusiliers that vanish at the slightest shadow. The grouper cannot reach them, but it knows who can. From the far side of the coral, another shape slithers into view, long, muscular, and serpent-like, with a head as blunt as the grouper's is wide. A moray eel, greenish-brown, its jaws opening and closing rhythmically as if in silent conversation. The two predators, species separated by millions of years of evolution, now engage in one of the ocean's most remarkable partnerships. The grouper initiates contact through gesture. It swims up to the eel and performs a distinctive display. Head shaking, sometimes combined with a full-body tilt and rapid pectoral fin flutter. To the untrained eye, it looks like agitation. To scientists, it is language. The signal means there is prey trapped in the reef, come hunt with me. Experiments have confirmed this interpretation. When groupers display to morays, the eels respond almost immediately, leaving their burrows to follow the signaling fish. If the grouper's signal is ignored, it repeats it, sometimes for minutes, maintaining eye contact as if negotiating. The gesture is not instinctual flailing, it is communication, precise and goal-oriented. Once the partnership begins, the dynamic becomes architectural. The grouper leads the eel to the hiding site, swimming in slow, deliberate circles over the target crevice, sometimes making short thrusts toward it to indicate direction. The eel, with its ribbon body and backward-facing teeth, slips into the coral maze, probing tunnels too narrow for the grouper's bulk. Hidden prey, sensing the intruder, often make the fatal choice of bolting into open water. And there, waiting with gaping jaws, is the grouper. One snap, one implosion of water, and the hunt is done. This cooperation is not random coincidence. Decades of field research across the Red Sea, the Indo-Pacific, and the Caribbean have revealed that the behavior is both deliberate and repeatable. Groupers seek out morays even when other hunting partners are available. Success rates skyrocket during these collaborations, up to 5 times higher than when either species hunts alone. For the grouper, it's a solution to access. For the eel, a solution to opportunity. Each benefits without sharing a single word or drop of blood. The communication extends beyond invitation. During hunts, the grouper may use additional gestures, a quick shake to redirect the eel, or a hovering pause to mark where prey has fled. Morays seem to recognize these cues, adjusting their movements accordingly. Sometimes the reverse occurs. A moray, having cornered prey within a tunnel, will back out and perform a full-body undulation, as if signaling the grouper to prepare. Then, in a coordinated instant, the eel drives the prey outward and the grouper strikes. Such coordination has fascinated ethologists because it bridges the cognitive gap between instinct and cooperation. Most interspecies interactions in the ocean are competitive or parasitic. The grouper and moray partnership defies that trend. It demonstrates not just awareness of another species' role, but intentional recruitment, a level of behavioral complexity once thought limited to mammals and birds. The relationship extends into more complex configurations. In certain reefs, groupers also collaborate with coral trout and octopuses, forming temporary triads of hunters. The principle remains the same: exploit complementary skills. Groupers bring power and suction, morays or octopuses bring infiltration. The result is a predatory task force, each member performing its ecological role like a subcontractor on a project. Scientists have even described the grouper as the project manager of the reef, a fitting metaphor. It locates opportunity, delegates labor, oversees execution, and reaps the results. The underlying mechanisms of this behavior trace back to the grouper's sensory and cognitive toolkit. Their vision is exceptional, adapted for both color and contrast in variable light. Their brains, though small, possess a disproportionately developed optic tectum, the region responsible for visual processing and pattern recognition. This may explain how they identify the specific body shape and motion of a moray eel and distinguish it from other reef inhabitants. They are not signaling to just any predator. They choose partners based on utility. Moreover, groupers exhibit spatial memory. They remember the locations of reliable morays and return to them repeatedly. Tagging studies in the Red Sea have shown that individual groupers visit the same eel dens over weeks, maintaining what researchers describe as working relationships. These are not friendships in a human sense, but they are repeated alliances founded on mutual gain. When both partners are successful, they part without conflict. When the eel fails to respond or no prey is found, the grouper moves on, recruiting elsewhere. Efficiency governs every interaction. Their cooperative tendencies may have evolved from solitary ambush behavior. A grouper's vacuum strike is one of nature's most violent expressions of suction feeding. Its jaws open in milliseconds, expanding the buccal cavity and drawing water and prey inward faster than a human blink. In open reef environments, this mechanism is devastating. But in coral labyrinths, prey often remain just beyond reach. The evolution of social strategy, then, may have arisen from necessity, the need to overcome the reef's architecture through shared effort. Beyond cooperation, groupers play a pivotal ecological role as regulators of reef populations. By targeting fish that graze on coral or invertebrates that destabilize reef balance, they indirectly maintain biodiversity. Their presence suppresses mid-level predators, allowing smaller species to thrive, which in turn sustain the reef's health. When overfishing removes large groupers, the ecological ripple is immediate. Prey species overpopulate, algae blooms smother coral, and the symphony of the reef falters. The recruiter, it turns out, also functions as a stabilizer. Underwater footage of these interactions captures the strange beauty of logic in motion. The grouper hovers before the eel's burrow, body flickering in sunlight, then tilts slightly as if nodding. The eel emerges, twisting through the coral with mechanical grace. Together they weave through a maze of sponges and fire coral, two predators of contrasting design united by shared purpose. For minutes they move as one, a slow search punctuated by bursts of decisive violence. When the prey finally flees into open water, the grouper lunges, its mouth erupting into a vacuum storm. A cloud of silt rises, then clears, leaving only one fish where once there were three. Even after the hunt, the dynamic lingers. The grouper circles once more around the moray's head, a brief, almost ceremonial movement before gliding away. The reef resumes its rhythm. Wrasses return to cleaning stations, damselfish resume their territorial disputes, and the moray slips back into its cave. Yet somewhere in that small exchange, those headshakes and turns, lies evidence of intelligence evolved not in the warm brains of mammals, but in the cold logic of coral ecosystems. It is tempting to anthropomorphize, to see negotiation where there may only be instinct. But the data remains persuasive. Groupers remember, select, signal, and adapt. They use gestures as tools, not reflexes. Their alliances span species and circumstances, extending into relationships flexible enough to adjust with changing environments. In this, they embody the reef's essence, a world built on interconnection where survival favors not the strongest alone, but the most cooperative. When the light fades and shadows lengthen across the coral, the grouper settles again beneath its ledge, blending with the stone it rules. Around it, life continues in a choreography of color and noise. The moray rests deeper in its den, waiting for the next invitation. Together, they form one of the ocean's quietest partnerships. No words, no hierarchy, just the unspoken calculus of shared success. In the coral's labyrinthine empire, even predators learn that power often begins with the ability to recruit. Night descends upon the coral reef like a slow tide of shadow. The brilliant palette of the day, turquoise light, coral pinks and sapphire water, fades into gradients of grey. Colors drain away, and with them the rhythm of daylight creatures. Parrotfish wedge themselves into coral crevices, cloaked in mucus cocoons. Wrasses bury themselves in sand. The schools that once flashed through the shallows dissolve into stillness. But not everything sleeps. But not. From the labyrinthine architecture of the reef, a slender head emerges, tapered, scaled, and almost reptilian in its confidence. Two round eyes catch the glimmer of starlight that filters down from the surface. The moray eel is awake. By day, the moray is a recluse, an enigma glimpsed only when a diver peers too close to a hole and is met by the slow, metronomic gape of jaws that never seem to close. To the uninitiated, that gape looks menacing, a display of aggression. In truth, it is respiration. The eel lacks the buccal pump system of most fish. It must open and close its mouth continuously to force water over its gills. Even when still, the moray appears restless, its throat muscles flexing like clockwork pistons. But when night falls, that rhythm changes. It becomes the beat of motion. The moray eel's domain is the maze within the reef, the network of cracks, tunnels and caverns invisible to larger hunters. Its long muscular body, free of scales and coated in a slick layer of protective mucus, allows it to glide through these spaces with eerie ease. Its dorsal fin runs like a continuous ribbon from head to tail, flexing in waves that ripple down its body. Every curve, every movement is calibrated to a fluid environment. It is not a swimmer in the conventional sense, it is a crawler through liquid corridors. Where other predators are confined to the open, the moray owns the interior, the vaults and passageways where prey believe themselves safe. Here lies the foundation of one of the reef's strangest partnerships. While the grouper rules the daylight and the open water, the moray governs the night and the inside spaces. Together they form an interspecies alliance built on complementary tools. The grouper brings power and suction. The moray brings reach and precision. If the grouper is the project manager, then the moray is the locksmith, the one who slips inside to open what strength alone cannot. When these two hunters meet, the language between them is not verbal but physical. The grouper initiates, shaking its head rapidly, sometimes turning on its side in an unmistakable display. The moray reads these gestures as cues, an invitation to a joint raid. Yet the communication does not end there. Over time, individual eels learn to interpret finer shades of the grouper's signals, slight variations in angle, repetition, or pacing that correspond to direction and urgency. Field observations have shown that experienced morays respond faster and with more accuracy than younger individuals, implying learning through repetition and memory. What began as instinctive response becomes refined understanding, a primitive lexicon of gestures between fish. Once the partnership begins, the moray takes the lead in the infiltration phase. The grouper hovers outside, body rigid and eyes tracking the reef's surface. Inside, the eel flows through coral tunnels like smoke through a chimney. Its movements are soundless but deliberate. Sensitive lateral line receptors along its skin detect micro-vibrations, the heartbeat of hidden prey. Small fish tucked into coral chambers, crustaceans pressed flat against rock, even sleeping octopuses, all betray their presence through the faint displacement of water. When the eel closes in, the attack is surgical. Its strike mechanism differs from any other fish on the reef. Most predators use a single set of jaws to seize prey. The moray, however, possesses a second pair, a pharyngeal jaw housed deep in its throat. When it bites, the outer jaws clamp down first, securing the prey. Then, in one of evolution's most remarkable adaptations, the pharyngeal jaws shoot forward like a set of inner tongs, grasping the prey and pulling it backward into the esophagus. This alien mechanism ensures that nothing escapes once caught. The speed and reach of this second jaw system compensate for the eel's lack of suction. Where the grouper inhales, the eel extracts. Together they cover every possible angle of capture. At night, this alliance becomes especially potent. The grouper may sleep or patrol nearby, but the eel continues its raids alone, an after-hours extension of the partnership. It knows the routes, the hiding spots, the shortcuts through coral fortresses. It moves with the methodical patience of a burglar casing a building. The comparison is apt. Eels learn their territories with near cartographic precision, remembering the positions of holes, ledges, and escape routes. Studies in artificial reef systems have shown that morays can recall specific dens for weeks, returning to them even after environmental rearrangement. Their spatial awareness rivals that of octopuses, and their persistence makes them the reef's consummate safecracker. By dawn, when the first rays of light pierce the surface and the chorus of diurnal fish begins again, the moray retreats. But its work leaves traces, broken shells, the remains of crustaceans, and occasionally the pale scales of a fish too slow to evade both the eel's reach and its pharyngeal pull. Even the grouper benefits indirectly from these nocturnal exploits. Many morning feedings occur where morays have left their unfinished business, half-consumed prey flushed from holes during the night. The ecosystem, as ever, wastes nothing. The coordination between grouper and moray reflects a rare phenomenon in marine life, mutualistic hunting between distantly related predators. It requires not only compatible anatomy but behavioral flexibility. The eel must tolerate proximity to another large carnivore. The grouper must resist opportunistic cannibalism. Both have evolved subtle checks against betrayal. When the moray emerges from a crevice, the grouper's gate remains closed, a non-aggression cue. Should the grouper lunge too soon or too close, the partnership ends, sometimes fatally. Mutual restraint sustains cooperation. In the microcosm of the reef, such restraint is not sentiment but survival. Every niche is contested, every inch of coral a battlefield of specialization. For the moray, cooperation extends its reach beyond the boundaries of structure. For the grouper, it extends precision beyond its bulk. Each has turned another species' difference into an advantage. This capacity to recognize utility in others is one of the hallmarks of intelligence. Beneath their partnership lies an ecological rhythm older than memory. When day rules, sight dominates, and the grouper's advantage is clear. When night comes, the world turns to vibration and scent, and the moray ascends. Its nostrils, small paired tubes at the snout, funnel chemical traces through a labyrinthine olfactory system, far more sensitive than that of most reef fish. It can track prey through scent alone, following molecular trails that linger in the still water. It is this sense that allows the eel to finish what daylight hunters begin. The image of the moray as a mere thug of the reef, a lunging face from a crevice, fails to capture its intricacy. Its skin secretes protective mucus that not only resists abrasion, but contains antimicrobial compounds, shielding it from infection in the rough coral environment. Its bite, while formidable, rarely causes infection in its victims because it feeds primarily on living prey, not carrion. Its reputation for aggression toward divers is exaggerated. Most strikes are defensive, triggered by the intrusions of hands seeking lobsters in the same holes. In truth, the eel's world is built on patience and calculation. When scientists filmed cooperative hunts using infrared cameras, they discovered moments that border on eerie choreography. The grouper hovers in the open, flicking its fins in subtle rhythm. The eel slides beneath, entering the coral lattice through a side crack. Seconds later, a panicked fish bursts from a different exit. The grouper strikes. The eel follows, turning its head slightly as if confirming success before returning to its labyrinth. This sequence repeats across reefs from the Red Sea to the Caribbean, identical in timing and structure, as if the species share a universal manual. How the moray learns these cues remains partly mysterious. Young eels do not exhibit full cooperative behavior immediately. They may observe adult interactions or respond to repeated exposure. Laboratory studies suggest that associative learning plays a role. When a specific grouper gesture precedes successful prey capture, the eel begins to anticipate the link between signal and reward. In essence, it learns a cross-species dialect through reinforcement. In evolutionary terms, this is profound. One predator decoding the body language of another. When the first light returns to the reef, the eel retreats once more into its den. The coral glows again with pastel light, the day shift resumes, and the sea forgets the night's silent contracts. But somewhere deep in the structure, the moray rests coiled in shadow, its pharyngeal jaws folded back like sheathed tools. It has done its part in the reef's unending enterprise, opening vaults, unlocking passageways, turning the architecture of the coral itself into an accomplice. The grouper may claim the glory of the strike, but it is the eel that makes access possible. In the grand economy of the reef, it is not always the strongest that dictates the hunt, but the one who knows the hidden routes, the one who can open the locked doors of the living labyrinth. And when dusk returns, the locksmith will rise again, quiet, patient, and precise, ready to unseal another chamber in the reef's eternal night. The reef awakens in dim blue light, and from its crevices, the most unlikely architect emerges. Two bulbous eyes rise first, swiveling independently like submarine periscopes. Beneath them, a web of shifting color and texture stirs against the sand, flowing between coral rubble and broken shells. What looks at first like a moving patch of reef reorganizes itself into purpose, a living intelligence draped in disguise. The octopus is on the move. In the daylight hierarchy of the coral world, it is an anomaly. Soft-bodied among armor-clad neighbors, boneless in a kingdom of spines and scales. Yet it is precisely this vulnerability that shaped its genius. Every millimeter of skin, every neuron, every instinct of the octopus exists in service of deception, adaptation, and strategy. It is the ultimate freelancer of the reef, solitary, unpredictable, and when convenient, cooperative. The octopus has no skeleton, no shield, no school to hide within. Its defense is fluidity. More than 2/3 of its neurons lie outside its central brain, embedded in its 8 arms, giving each limb semi-autonomous control. Each arm can taste through suckers, test surfaces, manipulate objects, and even make local decisions independent of the main brain. This distributed intelligence turns the octopus into something that is not merely an individual, but a colony of 8 coordinated minds. It can multitask at a level vertebrates can only approximate. One arm pries open a clam, another rearranges pebbles, a third gropes for an escape tunnel, all while the brain scans the horizon for threats. This kind of independence allows for behaviors unseen in most marine predators. On the outer edges of reefs, where sand flats meet coral boulders, octopuses have been documented forming temporary alliances with groupers, apex hunters of the reef who share neither kinship nor comfort with cephalopods. These truces, brief and tactical, are born of opportunity. A grouper, seeing prey escape into a coral hole, may signal the octopus with a quick headshake or body tilt. The octopus, recognizing the gesture, slinks into the crevice and flushes the target outward. The grouper waits above, mouth open like a sprung trap. In return, the octopus may claim leftovers or pursue what the grouper misses. It is a transaction without trust, a contract signed in necessity, not loyalty. But the octopus is more than just a cooperative thief, it is a manipulator of systems. In shared dens, researchers have recorded octopuses constructing barricades of rock and shell, arrangements that resemble fortifications more than nests. These dens serve as workshops, refuges, and sometimes armories. Each stone is placed deliberately, forming a narrow entrance that can be sealed from within by pulling the heaviest piece into position. When groupers or other fish loiter nearby, the octopus watches them with unblinking scrutiny. If a grouper has proven a reliable partner in past hunts, the octopus may tolerate its proximity, allowing it to linger at the entrance. But if that same partner grows greedy, lunging for shared prey or attempting theft, the octopus retaliates in an almost comical fashion. It punches. Footage from the Red Sea and the Indo-Pacific has captured this rare act of violence, a tentacle shooting forward, delivering a quick jab to the grouper's head or flank. It is not a predatory strike. It carries no venom, no attempt to kill. It is a behavioral correction, a moment of pure enforcement. Biologists interpret it as a form of punishment, a message that says, in effect, play fair. The octopus, it seems, understands not just cooperation, but the management of fairness within it, a form of moral calculus more often ascribed to primates than invertebrates. These moments are more than quirks of curiosity. They reveal a depth of behavioral flexibility unrivaled among marine invertebrates. The octopus does not rely on instinctive scripts. It learns through experience. Individuals remember specific predators and partners even after days or weeks apart. In controlled studies, they distinguish between human handlers who feed them and those who do not, squirting jets of water at disliked researchers while remaining placid toward others. This capacity for memory and discrimination translates into the wild, where the octopus navigates a complex web of relationships across the reef's social strata. Their cooperation with groupers represents a remarkable intersection of alien and vertebrate cognition. The grouper operates on visual and spatial logic, mapping prey routes in three-dimensional space. The octopus operates through tactile reasoning and experimentation. Together they merge brute force with problem-solving finesse, yet this partnership is inherently unstable. Both hunters are opportunists. and the boundary between alliance and competition shifts with circumstance. A typical scene unfolds over a sandy flat, scattered with coral boulders. The octopus glides across the bottom, skin pulsing through an array of colors. Beige sand one moment, marbled rock the next. Behind it, a grouper shadows the movement, maintaining a distance of several body lengths. The octopus halts at a cluster of coral heads, probing holes with slender arms. Suckers taste the current for traces of prey. A faint amino scent betrays a hiding crab. The octopus withdraws slightly, then lunges an arm deep into the hole. The crab bursts out the opposite side, fleeing directly into the grouper's path. The fish snaps its jaws, and the crab disappears in a plume of sand. The octopus pauses, skin flashing a brief ripple of dark pigment, perhaps irritation, perhaps acknowledgement, before moving on. The grouper follows, and the cycle repeats. To an observer, this may appear as seamless teamwork. To the participants, it is a temporary alignment of self-interest. The octopus is neither subordinate nor loyal. Its cooperation lasts only as long as it benefits. The moment the grouper's presence becomes a liability, too close, too greedy, too persistent, the octopus withdraws into its den, sealing the entrance with debris. The alliance dissolves as quickly as it formed. Inside the den, the octopus's world narrows to tactile order. The floor is strewn with shells, stones, and fragments of coral. These are not random decorations. The octopus rearranges them constantly, constructing barriers, covering eggs, and camouflaging entrances. Some individuals have even been observed using coconut shells or glass bottles as mobile shelters, carrying them across the sea floor like portable fortresses. Such behavior demonstrates an understanding of tool use, an ability once thought to belong exclusively to land animals. Each object becomes an extension of the octopus's body, a prosthetic limb of its creativity. Its skin, too, is a canvas of adaptation. Beneath the surface lie chromatophores, tiny pigment cells that expand or contract under neural command. By controlling these cells, the octopus can shift through patterns faster than the human eye can track, blending with coral, mimicking sand, or flashing warning signals. In cooperation, this camouflage serves a new purpose: deception. Some octopuses have been seen adopting cryptic postures while near groupers, hiding their approach from prey until the final second. Others display false colors to confuse both ally and victim, light on one side to match sand, dark on the other to resemble shadow. The result is a living double exposure, half predator, half ghost. Evolution has rewarded this duplicity. An octopus cannot afford to trust easily, not even its temporary partners. Groupers are capable of turning on them, especially during food scarcity. Hence the octopus's role as double agent of the reef, a creature that allies when convenient, betrays when necessary, and survives through adaptability. Its cooperation is never unconditional. Its allegiance is to advantage itself. Yet beneath the pragmatism lies a sophisticated ecological function. These collaborations increase hunting efficiency and distribute predation pressure across species. By working with fish, octopuses access prey they might otherwise miss. In turn, groupers gain entry to food concealed within coral architecture. The prey community benefits indirectly too by avoiding population imbalances. This interspecies choreography stabilizes the reef's food web, a delicate balance maintained by creatures that understand nothing of ecology, yet embody it perfectly through behavior. At night, when the grouper retires and the reef fades into shadow, the octopus becomes the solitary engineer once more. It emerges from its barricade, moving through the dim moonlight like spilled ink, every motion deliberate. It inspects its neighborhood, rearranges rocks, and clears debris. It patrols, not for companionship, but for control. Each den, each alliance, each deceptive gesture serves a single evolutionary mandate: to survive in a world where intelligence, not armor, is the final defense. To watch the octopus in action is to witness evolution's experiment in distributed cognition. It is a creature that navigates trust and treachery with equal mastery, building alliances in one moment and dismantling them in the next. On a reef defined by constant change, it alone thrives through reinvention. When dawn returns, the grouper may once again approach the den, flicking fins in silent invitation. The octopus will pause, one arm coiled around a rock, weighing the offer. Cooperation is possible, but never guaranteed. For in the coral underworld, every ally is temporary, every truce conditional, and the octopus remains forever what it was born to be. The double agent of the reef, fluent in the language of both collaboration and deceit. The morning light spreads across the open ocean like a pale silk curtain, filtering down through blue water in slow-moving beams. In this vast and otherwise empty expanse, a dark shadow glides just beneath the surface, a shape wider than a car, moving with the fluid calm of something utterly at home in its element. The manta ray enters the frame not as a predator or prey, but as a phenomenon. It is not a hunter stalking, nor a drifter fleeing. It is a body of flight transformed into an aquatic ballet. Every motion of its wings seems effortless, though each beat moves hundreds of liters of water. It is a creature that has turned the act of survival into performance. To follow a manta ray is to enter a world that moves in spirals. Everything about this animal, the way it feeds, the way it cleans, the way it socializes, follows the geometry of motion. Unlike sharks that slice through the water in straight lines, or reef fish that dart and pause, the manta lives in loops. It turns, it circles, it glides. In the language of hydrodynamics, its body is a masterpiece of efficiency. Broad cephalic fins channel plankton-rich water into its cavernous mouth while reducing turbulence. These horns, so devilish in outline that they inspired its nickname, the Devil Ray, are in truth precision tools, mobile funnels that control flow and pressure, directing life itself into the gullet of a filter-feeding giant. But this oceanic dancer has routines beyond feeding. As the sun climbs, the manta ray approaches a site of ritual importance, a cleaning station. On certain coral heads scattered through the Indo-Pacific and Caribbean, these sites serve as the equivalent of underwater temples, where species large and small gather not to hunt or feed, but to maintain the machinery of life itself. Parrotfish, groupers, moray eels and turtles all visit these sanctuaries, yet none with quite the grandeur of a manta. When one arrives, the reef changes. It approaches slowly, like an aircraft aligning for landing. Smaller fish scatter at first, spooked by its wingspan, until they recognize the familiar outline. Then the congregation resumes. Cleaner wrasses, small electric blue fish with impeccable timing, emerge from coral shelters and begin their service. They flit over the manta's vast surface, picking at parasites, nibbling dead skin, and cleaning wounds. The manta hovers almost motionless, suspended in the water column above the coral like a dirigible at anchor. From its spiracle, the small valve behind its eyes, thin jets of expelled water whisper rhythmically, a sign of slow, relaxed breathing. In this stillness, the manta ray exhibits a kind of etiquette rarely seen in marine life. It waits its turn. At busy stations, multiple rays may queue, circling in slow formation until the previous individual finishes its cleaning session. This rotation creates a silent choreography, an aquatic traffic system run entirely on instinct and memory. The rules are unwritten yet consistent. Maintain distance, avoid collisions, respect priority. Even at these depths, order prevails without command. The wrasses and cleaner shrimp that service these giants have evolved extraordinary precision. They know exactly where to go and what to remove, guided by chemical cues from the manta's skin and mucus layer. In return, the manta offers a form of mutual trust. It remains motionless even as small fish dart into its gill slits and mouth to clean the inner folds of tissue. This interaction, simple on the surface, represents a complex alliance forged over millions of years of coevolution. The cleaner fish earn food. The manta maintains hygiene critical to its health and hydrodynamic performance. For the manta ray, hygiene is not vanity, it is survival. These animals can travel vast distances, sometimes migrating hundreds of kilometers between feeding grounds, crossing thermoclines, currents, and plankton blooms. Their skin, smooth and fine as silk under a diver's hand, can harbor parasites that slow them down or cause infection. Regular cleaning ensures efficiency and longevity, essential for creatures that live as long as 50 years. To neglect the cleaning station is to risk the slow drag of decay. When the ritual concludes, the manta ray dips its cephalic fins forward and glides away, its skin gleaming, its path deliberate. But the day's second ceremony soon begins, not at a coral outcrop, but in the open sea where plankton blooms turn the water into living soup. Here, the manta's grace transforms into something otherworldly. At dusk, the first individuals arrive, silhouettes against fading light. They begin to circle, wide at first, then tighter, tracing invisible spirals around a pocket of dense plankton. Others join, each adding its own orbit until the water column becomes a vortex of motion. This is barrel roll feeding, one of the most mesmerizing spectacles in marine biology. Each manta rolls head over tail repeatedly, its mouth gaping as it loops through the densest part of the swarm. In doing so, it filters thousands of liters of water every minute, extracting microscopic prey that drift unseen to human eyes. When more rays gather, the choreography escalates into a structure scientists call a feeding torus, a living cyclone of bodies rotating around a shared axis. From a distance, it looks almost ritualistic, as if the mantas have gathered to worship the plankton bloom itself. In reality, the behavior maximizes efficiency. The collective vortex concentrates food in the center, allowing each participant to feed with minimal effort. No central leader coordinates this ballet, yet the system functions with perfect harmony. Each manta positions itself relative to the next, avoiding collision through subtle cues in water pressure and visual feedback. Their immense pectoral fins generate lift with each sweep, maintaining neutral buoyancy even as they roll through the vortex. The sight is hypnotic, black and white wings passing through shafts of sunlight, each roll tracing arcs of silvered bubbles. In some regions, like the Maldives or Komodo, divers have witnessed dozens of individuals participating at once, transforming the sea into a revolving cathedral of motion. What appears tranquil hides staggering athleticism. Manta rays are warm-bodied relative to surrounding water, an adaptation that allows sustained activity across temperature gradients. Specialized countercurrent heat exchangers retain warmth generated by muscle metabolism, keeping core organs functional even in cooler upwellings. This internal thermal regulation supports prolonged foraging, endurance flight, and complex group behaviors that require precision timing. Just as impressive as their physiology is their cognition. Mantas possess the largest brain-to-body ratio of any fish, rivaling some mammals in neural density. Studies suggest they recognize individual conspecifics, display curiosity toward their reflections, and possibly exhibit self-awareness, a rarity in marine life. At cleaning stations, they sometimes pause before mirrors placed by researchers, inspecting their own movements with a focus that borders on introspection. Such intelligence may underpin their social flexibility, allowing coordination in feeding, cooperation in migration, and tolerance in crowded rituals. Yet intelligence has not shielded them from peril. Human activity, entanglement, pollution, unregulated tourism threatens both their feeding grounds and cleaning stations. The same intelligence that fuels curiosity often leads mantas to approach boats where they risk injury from propellers or fishing gear. Their gill rakers, once prized in illicit markets for pseudo-medicinal purposes, have driven population declines across multiple regions. Still, in protected waters, these cathedral rituals continue to flourish, offering glimpses into an evolutionary balance that modern humanity is only beginning to respect. In the quiet that follows a feeding torus, the mantas drift apart. The water, once turbulent, settles into calm once more. A single ray glides upward, cephalic fins unfurling like wings of a dark angel, surfacing briefly before descending again into the blue. To the untrained eye, it might seem like simple wandering. But to the manta, every glide is calculated. It senses shifts in current, gradients of salinity, faint echoes of plankton density through chemical receptors lining its gills. Its world is a map of invisible signals, read not by sight but by flow and pressure. Back near the reef, the cleaners have already moved on to their next client. The coral hums with life, from the subtle grinding of parrotfish to the distant drumming of snapping shrimp. In this living metropolis, the manta ray remains both visitor and deity, too large to belong, yet too gentle to dominate. Its movements enforce no rule, yet inspire one, coexistence through respect. The manta's etiquette is born of necessity but elevated into art. Whether circling coral cathedrals or forming cyclones in the open sea, it embodies the principle of balance, the delicate interplay between independence and cooperation, between form and function. Its every motion, from the slow descent into a cleaning station to the soaring ascent from a feeding spiral, is a lesson in precision through peace. When night falls, bioluminescent plankton ignite behind the passing rays like trails of starlight. The mantas vanish into this living constellation, each glide tracing a faint signature of light in the darkness. The reef sleeps, the cleaners rest, and the sea's vast cathedral closes its doors, until dawn, when the mantas return, punctual as pilgrims, to keep their covenant with the coral. At first glance, the coral garden looks tranquil. Swaying tendrils of sea anemones undulate in slow motion, each movement guided by invisible currents. But beneath this serene surface lies a fortress. Within the living walls of those tentacles, a small orange and white creature patrols its territory with the confidence of an emperor defending his palace. The clownfish, or anemone fish, might seem cartoonish in its perpetual grin, but its world is built upon rules of chemistry, courage, and reciprocity, a pact so intricate that evolution itself had to write it clause by clause. The sea anemone is no gentle landlord. Its tentacles are armed with cnidocytes, microscopic harpoons tipped with neurotoxins, powerful enough to paralyze small fish instantly. To most inhabitants of the reef, brushing against these lethal filaments means instant immobilization, followed by slow digestion in the anemone's central mouth. Yet the clownfish lives here unscathed, weaving through the venomous arms as if immune to their sting. This immunity is not inherited but earned, negotiated through a ritual of contact and adaptation that scientists call acclimation. When a juvenile clownfish first approaches an anemone, it does not dive directly into the tentacles. Instead, it performs a cautious dance, approaching and retreating, brushing gently against the outermost tips before withdrawing. Each contact transfers mucus from the anemone onto the fish's own skin, creating a biochemical disguise. Over hours or even days, the clownfish effectively steals the anemone's scent, tricking its host's stinging cells into recognizing it as part of their own body. This mucus layer acts like a passport stamped with the signature of the anemone's chemistry, granting the clownfish unrestricted access to a home that would kill any other visitor. Once accepted, the clownfish takes up permanent residence. It rarely leaves the protective perimeter of its host, for the anemone's tentacles form both fortress and feeding station. In return, the fish becomes its guardian and caretaker. The relationship between these two species, one soft-bodied and stationary, the other mobile and territorial, is among the most refined examples of mutualism in the ocean. The clownfish brings nutrients, security, and maintenance. The anemone provides shelter and protection. Each is incomplete without the other. The most visible sign of this partnership is the clownfish's territorial behavior. It patrols the area around its anemone like a soldier on constant watch. Anything that ventures too close, intruding damselfish, butterflyfish, even divers' fingers, will trigger an instant charge. The clownfish darts out, mouth agape, releasing bursts of clicks and snaps produced by grinding its jawbones together. These sounds serve both as deterrent and as communication, reinforcing dominance among neighboring colonies. Despite its small size, the clownfish's aggression is legendary. Within its few square meters of real estate, it is absolute monarch. This defense serves the anemone as much as it does the fish. By chasing away potential predators, especially butterflyfish that feed on anemone tentacles, the clownfish ensures the safety of its host's delicate tissue. The fish's activity also circulates water through the anemone's body, improving oxygen exchange and preventing sediment buildup. Even its waste plays a role. Nitrogen-rich excretions feed the anemone's symbiotic algae, which in turn enhance its photosynthetic output. In essence, the clownfish fertilizes the very walls of its fortress. The relationship deepens during reproduction. Clownfish are protandrous hermaphrodites. Each individual begins life as a male, but can become female if social hierarchy demands it. Within a single anemone, the largest fish is the dominant female, the second largest her breeding male, and all smaller residents are subordinate males. If the female dies, the breeding male changes sex within days, growing larger and taking over leadership. This social ladder ensures stability. There is no need to fight for mates or territory, since the hierarchy automatically adjusts to any loss. It is evolution's solution to succession, reducing competition and preserving the colony's structure. When the female lays her eggs, she chooses a flat rock or coral patch directly beneath the anemone's tentacles, close enough to benefit from the shelter, but open enough for oxygenated water to flow across. The male then fertilizes them externally and begins a period of devoted care that can last for several days. During this time, he fans the eggs continuously with his fins, maintaining water circulation and removing debris. The act looks simple, but serves multiple purposes. The fanning not only aerates the developing embryos, but also increases nutrient flow to the anemone. The microscopic particles and organic matter stirred up during this ritual are absorbed by the anemone's surface, nourishing it in return. The relationship, already symbiotic, becomes almost architectural. Every movement of the clownfish reinforces the metabolic structure of its host. In the wild, several species of clownfish may share overlapping ranges, but each colony remains loyal to its chosen anemone species. This specialization is not random. Certain anemones produce chemical cues that match the genetic tolerance of specific clownfish. Through evolutionary fine-tuning, each pair has developed mutual recognition, ensuring both safety and efficiency. A mismatch, say a clownfish attempting to settle in an incompatible anemone, usually ends in stings and retreat. Thus, the reef becomes a mosaic of miniature kingdoms, each centered around a single anemone fortress guarded by its fiery tenant. The ecological significance of this partnership extends far beyond their immediate vicinity. By deterring anemone predators and cleaning their surfaces, clownfish increase the anemone's lifespan and growth. Larger, healthier anemones attract more symbiotic fish, forming dense microhabitats that host shrimp, crabs, and juvenile reef species seeking temporary refuge. In this way, a single pair of clownfish contributes to biodiversity on a scale disproportionate to their size. Where they thrive, reef health follows. Beneath this cooperative facade, however, lies subtle tension. The clownfish's dependence on its host is absolute. It cannot survive long without anemone protection. Juveniles displaced from their homes are quickly picked off by predators, while adults deprived of their anemone show heightened stress and reduced reproductive success. The anemone, on the other hand, can survive without the clownfish, though it may suffer more predation. This imbalance shapes the dynamic. The clownfish needs the anemone far more than the anemone needs the clownfish. The relationship, though mutually beneficial, is asymmetrical, an alliance of necessity more than equality. Evolution has amplified this dependence through intricate chemical and behavioral adaptations. The clownfish's mucus not only prevents stings, but differs fundamentally in composition from that of other fish. It contains fewer glycoproteins and more neutral sugars, which fail to trigger the anemone's nematocyst discharge. Moreover, this mucus is replenished daily, maintaining the fish's immunity. When stressed, clownfish produce even more mucus, thickening their protection. These fine-tuned responses suggest a coevolutionary arms race where both partners continually refine their tolerance and defense systems, ensuring coexistence without accidental harm. When viewed through a scientific lens, the relationship is a model of ecological reciprocity. When viewed cinematically, it is theater. The anemone sways, its tentacles like curtains, while the clownfish darts in and out as both actor and stagehand. Each movement tells a story of risk and trust, an unspoken pact maintained by invisible chemistry and constant vigilance. At dusk, the reef darkens and plankton rise from the depths. Predators prowl in the dim light: moray eels, lionfish, nocturnal wrasses. The clownfish retreats into the heart of its anemone, disappearing between the soft arms that would kill anything else. Its eyes remain open, scanning the fading water, its fins twitching occasionally as if dreaming of tomorrow's patrol. Around it, the anemone's tentacles contract slightly, responding to shifts in current and shadow. Two organisms, one stationary, one restless, both bound by the silent contract that keeps them alive. By morning, they will begin again. The clownfish venturing out to defend, clean, and fertilize. The anemone feeding on the microcurrents of its guardian's motion. Their story, played out across reefs from the Red Sea to the Pacific, is as constant as the tides themselves. It is a reminder that survival in the ocean is rarely solitary. It is built on partnerships, some fleeting, some eternal, all written in the language of adaptation. In a world defined by predation, the clownfish and anemone have crafted an alternative, an agreement where violence becomes protection, where venom becomes shelter, and where loyalty is measured not in sentiment, but in function. The reef thrives on such compromises. And in this living lease between bodyguard and landlord, evolution has found one of its most elegant clauses, that cooperation, not conquest, is the true currency of survival. Sunlight filters through the clear shallows in trembling ribbons, breaking into patterns across a reef that hums with the quiet energy of morning. Among the coral spires and swaying seagrasses stands a different kind of structure, a living fortress built not from limestone but from flesh. Its crown of tentacles waves gently in the current, each arm tipped with invisible weapons. This is the sea anemone, a carnivorous flower in disguise, equal parts beauty and danger. It is the reef's landlord, armed with venom, yet home to an array of unlikely tenants. To most reef dwellers, the sea anemone is a death trap. Every tentacle bristles with cnidocytes, specialized cells that hold coiled harpoons called nematocysts. When triggered by touch, these tiny projectiles fire in microseconds, piercing prey and releasing neurotoxins potent enough to paralyze small fish and invertebrates. It is a perfect weapon, chemical, mechanical, and automatic. The sea anemone's apparent stillness hides this constant readiness, a silent perimeter of defense designed by hundreds of millions of years of evolution. Yet for a select few, this fortress opens its doors. Clownfish, cleaner shrimp, porcelain crabs, creatures that should be food, live unharmed among the anemone's arms. The arrangement is more than tolerance, it is partnership. The anemone, though capable of defending itself, thrives better when it delegates certain duties to its residents. In return for safety, these tenants offer services: cleaning, aerating, fertilizing, and even guarding the landlord against specific threats. At the heart of this relationship lies the same chemistry that makes the anemone so lethal. Its nematocysts do not fire at random, they require a precise combination of mechanical and chemical triggers to activate. Each potential prey emits unique surface proteins that the anemone's sensors recognize. Tenants like the clownfish have learned to alter this recognition. When a clownfish first approaches an anemone, it performs a cautious ritual of contact, touching tentacles briefly, then retreating, then returning. Over time, the fish's skin becomes coated with a layer of the anemone's own mucus, masking its true identity. It is as if the tenant forges a chemical lease, signed in the landlord's own scent. This adaptation benefits both. The clownfish gains immunity and refuge. The anemone gains a vigilant guardian. The small fish patrols the perimeter, darting out to chase away butterfly fish, delicate grazers whose long snouts can snip off anemone tentacles with surgical precision. In most encounters, the clownfish wins by intimidation alone. Even large predators hesitate when confronted by the anemone's venomous canopy. Few creatures dare test which strikes first, the fish's charge or the landlord's sting. But protection is only one part of this biological agreement. The clownfish's constant motion stirs the surrounding water, increasing oxygenation around the anemone's tentacles. This aeration benefits not only the animal itself, but also the tiny algae, zooxanthellae, that live within its tissues. These symbiotic algae perform photosynthesis, producing sugars that feed the anemone from within. In return, the anemone provides them with nitrogen waste and carbon dioxide, creating one of nature's most efficient nutrient exchanges. The clownfish's fanning behavior enhances this process by maintaining steady water flow, preventing stagnation, and ensuring optimal light exposure for the algae's photosynthetic machinery. The result is a miniature ecosystem contained within a single organism: predator, farmer and landlord, all in one. During the day, the anemone's tentacles expand fully, catching stray plankton and small fish drawn by the nutrient-rich water. At night, they retract, conserving energy while their photosynthetic tenants rest. When illuminated by moonlight, the translucent tissue glows faintly, revealing networks of canals pulsing with internal fluids, an almost vascular system that moves oxygen and nutrients through its soft body. In return for this sanctuary, the tenants become an extension of the anemone's immune system. They act as its external defense line. Clownfish chase off predators that the anemone cannot reach. Cleaner shrimp patrol the tentacles, removing parasites and debris. Some crabs even assist by waving their claws to improve circulation or repel unwanted intruders. Each species specializes in a role, turning the anemone into a living condominium whose inhabitants maintain its health and hygiene. This cooperation, however, comes with strict boundaries. The anemone determines who may stay. Even among clownfish species, compatibility varies. A clownfish attempting to enter the wrong anemone risks instant death, its mucus shield mismatched to the host's chemistry. Evolution has fine-tuned each pairing, ensuring mutual benefit and minimizing cross-species intrusion. The result is a delicate partitioning of the reef, where specific anemones host only certain fish, forming micro-communities scattered across the ecosystem. These bonds extend to reproduction. When clownfish lay eggs near the base of the anemone, the male fans them constantly with his fins to supply oxygen. This fanning not only benefits the embryos, but also improves nutrient flow for the anemone's algae. The waste from hatching fry feeds the surrounding tentacles, while the anemone's mucus film shields the young from bacterial infection. In this way, the landlord and its tenants share the costs and rewards of life in close quarters, their metabolisms intertwined. Despite its sedentary lifestyle, the sea anemone is far from passive. Its tentacles are dynamic tools of both aggression and restraint. When disturbed, they retract swiftly, drawing inward to protect the central column. When feeding, they elongate and coil around prey, pushing it toward the mouth at the center of their body disc. Digestive enzymes break down the victim, and the nutrients are distributed through the anemone's internal canals. Every part of its body participates in this process. No organs, no bones, just tissue orchestrated by nerve nets and hydraulic pressure. It is a body designed for efficiency rather than complexity, proving that sophistication in biology often hides behind simplicity. Perhaps the most fascinating behavior emerges during defense drills against butterfly fish raids. When these persistent grazers appear, clownfish and anemones act in unison. The fish attack first, darting outward in coordinated bursts while the anemone folds its tentacles inward, minimizing exposed surface area. If the butterfly fish persists, the anemone releases nematocyst-laden mucus into the water, a chemical deterrent that lingers like invisible smoke. This fluid cloud both stings and warns. The clownfish respond by fanning the water, spreading the deterrent farther. Such moments reveal an eerie coordination between vertebrate and invertebrate, predator and host, as if two vastly different nervous systems share a single survival instinct. On a larger scale, anemones influence entire reef structures. Their tentacles provide shelter for juveniles of various species, creating zones of safety in the open expanse of coral. By hosting fish that drive away predators, they indirectly protect nearby coral colonies from grazing damage. In nutrient-poor tropical waters, such localized recycling loops become vital for maintaining productivity. Without these mutualistic partnerships, many reef ecosystems would lose their balance. Proof that even creatures as seemingly simple as anemones play a keystone role in marine stability. Anemones also exhibit surprising resilience. Some species can detach from the substrate and drift to new locations, contracting their bodies into a ball and letting currents carry them like jellyfish. In doing so, they can recolonize damaged reefs or escape unsuitable conditions. When they resettle, they resume their symbiotic routines as if nothing happened, signaling the remarkable adaptability of life forms that lack brains, skeletons, or mobility in the traditional sense. Still, their survival is not guaranteed. Climate change and ocean acidification threaten this ancient partnership. As temperatures rise, the delicate balance between the anemone and its algae breaks down, a process known as bleaching. The algae abandon their host, leaving the anemone pale and starved. Without the algae's photosynthetic products, the anemone weakens and its tenants lose their home. A single stress event can unravel the entire miniature civilization. Yet when conditions improve, recovery is possible. Algae return, color floods back into the tentacles, and the clownfish resume their duties as if time itself had paused for repair. The resilience of this system lies in its reciprocity. Each participant compensates for the other's weaknesses. The anemone offers strength through venom, the fish through vigilance, and the algae through energy. Together they form an ecosystem within an organism, a coral reef within a coral reef. Viewed through a diver's mask, a healthy anemone colony is hypnotic. Its tentacles undulate in slow synchrony, alternating between contraction and expansion. Clownfish weave through the labyrinth, their scales catching flickers of sunlight. Cleaner shrimp cling to the tentacle bases like attendants at court. The entire scene feels choreographed, a living cathedral whose congregation worships stability and cooperation. In the end, the sea anemone stands as both predator and provider, proof that even the most venomous creatures can host life instead of ending it. Its sting, calibrated by evolution, enforces the rules of coexistence. It kills to live but shelters to persist. Every partnership it maintains is an act of mutual investment, risk balanced by reward, defense tempered by trust. The reef's landlord, armed with thousands of microscopic harpoons, proves that survival is not always about dominance. Sometimes it is about knowing when to open the gates of your fortress and allow others to build a future within your walls. Along the temperate coasts where the Pacific's breath meets stone, the water never rests. Waves fold and unfurl against the cliffs in endless rhythm, weaving ribbons of foam around forests that grow not on land but beneath it. These are the kelp forests, towering cathedrals of brown algae stretching skyward from the sea floor, their fronds brushing sunlight that filters through the surface. Here, shafts of golden-green light fall like stained glass through a moving ceiling. Fish glide between the columns. Crabs skitter along the holdfasts. The airless forest hums with life and motion. But this underwater woodland stands on a knife's edge. Its enemy is small, spiny, and relentless. The sea urchin. When unchecked, urchins swarm across the seabed like living rot, consuming kelp from its base until entire forests collapse into barren rubble. And in this delicate equilibrium, one creature, a warm-blooded anomaly in a cold-blooded world, stands as the guardian of the forest, the sea otter. To watch a sea otter at work is to witness a paradox of charm and ferocity. On the surface, it floats like a buoyant furred cloud, rolling lazily on the swells, often holding its young against its chest like a parent in a rocking cradle. Beneath that playful veneer lies one of the most specialized marine predators on Earth, an animal whose feeding habits shape entire coastlines. The sea otter's role is not incidental, it is foundational. Ecologists call it a keystone species. Remove it and the whole structure collapses. The otter's lineage diverged from land carnivores roughly 5 million years ago, and its return to the sea demanded extreme adaptation. To survive without the blubber that seals and whales rely on, otters evolved the densest fur in the animal kingdom, up to 1 million hairs per square inch. This fur traps a layer of air against the skin, forming an insulating bubble wrap barrier against freezing water. Yet maintaining it requires constant grooming. Between hunts, otters roll, twist, and comb through their fur using their claws and teeth, blowing air into it like smiths tending their armor. A single patch of matted or dirty fur can lead to hypothermia. The sea may host its battles, but the true fight for an otter is always with the cold. When it dives, the otter enters a world of pressure and darkness. It can hold its breath for several minutes, plunging to depths of 20 or even 30 meters. Its lung capacity and flexible ribcage allow it to withstand compression. Each dive is a mission of precision, driven by memory and touch. The otter's forepaws, sensitive and dexterous, probe beneath rocks and into crevices where its prey hides. Crabs, clams, snails, and most importantly, sea urchins. With blunt claws and crushing molars, the otter dismantles its quarry with efficiency that borders on brutality. It often uses a tool, a rock or shell, held against its chest like an anvil to smash through the armor of its meal. This behavior is not learned anew with each generation, but passed down through observation, a rare example of cultural transmission in a marine mammal. The sight of an otter floating on its back, pounding an urchin open with rhythmic taps, is one of nature's most deceptive images. It looks playful, almost innocent. In reality, it is ecological warfare. Each urchin destroyed is a life saved for the kelp forest. Each kelp preserved supports hundreds of species, from herring and rockfish to invertebrates and seabirds. The otter's appetite is voracious. It consumes up to a quarter of its own body weight each day. But in that hunger lies salvation. Its predation limits urchin populations, preventing the herbivores from devouring the kelp's holdfasts. Without otters, the urchins multiply unchecked, their collective grazing reducing vibrant forests to urchin barrens, lifeless plains where only purple spines remain. The connection between predator and plant is not intuitive. The otter does not eat kelp, yet it is its greatest protector. This indirect relationship is known as a trophic cascade, a chain of cause and effect where top predators control herbivores, which in turn regulate vegetation. In this case, the otter's diet shapes the entire seascape. Remove the otters, and urchins proliferate. Remove the kelp, and fish nurseries vanish. Coastal erosion increases, and carbon sequestration plummets. What looks like a small mammal cracking shells in the surf is in truth an architect of planetary function. Within their communities, otters display behaviors that blur the line between instinct and intelligence. They form floating congregations known as rafts, groups that can number from a handful to several dozen individuals. In these gatherings, each otter maintains a small personal bubble of kelp, wrapping strands around its body to anchor itself against the current. In calm waters, rafts drift like living islands, fur glistening under the sun. Mothers cradle pups on their bellies, while others groom or nap, their heads occasionally lifting to scan the horizon. But beneath this serenity there is communication and even learning. Young otters observe older ones manipulating tools, cracking shells, or accessing particularly difficult prey. Over time, these techniques spread through the population, creating local traditions of foraging, regional cultures of tool use that differ from one coastline to another. One remarkable discovery is the persistence of tool choice. Certain individuals show strong preferences for particular types of stones, flat rocks for clams, rounded ones for urchins, and may even carry them tucked into loose skin folds under their armpits. These hidden pouches serve as personal tool belts, allowing an otter to surface with both prey and instrument in hand. It is a level of preparation that suggests foresight, a mental mapping of the tasks ahead. But the otter's story is not solely one of triumph. For much of recent history, humans nearly erased it. By the late 19th century, the fur trade had reduced sea otters from millions to mere thousands. With their disappearance came the silent collapse of kelp ecosystems along the Pacific Rim. Urchins exploded in number, consuming kelp forests that had stood for centuries. The underwater cathedrals turned to deserts. Only with the otter's slow recovery, through protection, reintroduction, and the halting of hunting, did the forests begin to return. In Alaska, British Columbia, and California, the return of the otter marked the rebirth of entire marine communities. The restoration was dramatic. Satellite imagery revealed that regions with reintroduced otters saw kelp canopy coverage increase several-fold within years. With kelp came fish, seabirds, and crustaceans. Even coastal fisheries benefited, though not always immediately. The otter's consumption of shellfish sometimes sparked human conflict, yet over time, the healthier ecosystems supported greater biodiversity and productivity overall. This ecological ripple is now recognized as one of the most striking examples of top-down control in marine biology. Equally profound are the otter's effects on global carbon cycling. Kelp forests are among the planet's most efficient carbon sinks, storing carbon in biomass and sediments. By preserving these forests, otters indirectly help sequester significant amounts of atmospheric carbon dioxide. a climate service measured not in kilograms, but in thousands of tons annually. In a warming world, their role transcends ecology. It edges into climate regulation itself. In the kelp forests they protect, sea otters are never alone. Seabirds hover overhead, diving for scraps. Harbor seals drift nearby. Beneath them, abalone graze on kelp blades, wary of otters that may turn them into the next meal. This dynamic equilibrium defines the coastal frontier, a place where life must constantly negotiate between hunger and balance. The otter, though small in size compared to other marine predators, operates as a living fulcrum between abundance and ruin. Underwater, where sunlight fades into green haze, a single otter hovers over the forest floor. Its paws search between boulders, dislodging a spiny purple urchin. With a quick roll and a kick of its hind feet, it ascends toward the light, clutching the writhing prize against its chest. At the surface, the otter lies back, balancing the urchin on its belly. A smooth pebble appears from its armpit pouch. The animal brings it down sharply once, twice, until the shell cracks. A burst of color, violet, crimson, cream, splashes into the air. The otter eats deliberately, methodically, leaving the fragments to sink back into the kelp canopy below. Those fragments, in turn, nourish scavengers and decomposers. Nothing is wasted in this circuit of survival. As the otter finishes its meal, it wipes its face with its paws, grooming fur slicked with seawater. Around it, kelp blades rise toward the sun, shimmering like banners of victory. The balance holds, for now. But even this guardian is vulnerable. Oil spills, pollution, and disease can decimate populations in a single generation. A single major spill can coat the otter's fur, collapsing its insulating air layer and leading to mass hypothermia. The same delicate biology that makes them marvels of adaptation also makes them fragile. Still, they persist. From Alaska to California, from the Kuril Islands to Kamchatka, sea otters patrol the edges of the world's cold oceans, heirs to a lineage that nearly vanished, yet refused extinction. Every urchin they crush echoes through the forest. Every forest they save ripples outward to the planet. In a realm where survival is often solitary, they stand as proof that ecology itself is a network of debts and guardianship. Beneath the kelp canopy, sunlight flickers once more, dappling fur and frond alike. The otter drifts between the golden pillars, an accidental savior, a warm heart in a cold sea, forever keeping the forest standing. The underwater world can collapse in silence. No explosions, no storms, no cries of distress, just a gradual fading, a quiet unraveling. Along coastlines once rich with kelp forests, the golden fronds vanish one by one, until the ocean floor becomes an expanse of pale rock littered with brittle spines. This desolation is not caused by pollution, nor by climate alone. It is the work of a tiny architect of ruin, the sea urchin. To the casual observer, sea urchins appear harmless, stationary spheres armed with delicate spines that shimmer faintly under shifting light. They cling to rocks like ornaments, their symmetry almost mathematical, their movements barely perceptible. Yet these creatures are among the most efficient grazers in the marine world, capable of transforming living forests into empty deserts. Each urchin's mouth, hidden beneath its shell, holds a structure so formidable it earned its own name, Aristotle's lantern. It is a 5-part jaw apparatus equipped with teeth of crystalline calcium carbonate, harder than steel on a microscopic scale. These teeth sharpen themselves continuously as they grind against each other, allowing the urchin to rasp through kelp stalks, coralline algae, even limestone. When sea urchin populations are balanced, their feeding plays a healthy role in the ecosystem, trimming algae and creating space for new growth. But balance rarely endures without its regulators. In the Pacific kelp forests, that regulator is the sea otter. When otters are present, urchins remain cautious, hiding in crevices and feeding on drift kelp, fragments that drift down from the canopy above. But when otters vanish, everything changes. The urchins abandon their shelters and begin to march. Slowly, collectively, they rise from the cracks and crevices in staggering numbers, sweeping across the sea floor like an advancing army. This behavior transforms thriving kelp forests into urchin barrens, marine wastelands where few species can survive. Urchin barrens are ghostly realms. The once lush canopy of kelp that softened wave energy, filtered sunlight, and hosted hundreds of species becomes a skeletal seascape of bare stone. Without kelp's shelter, fish nurseries vanish. Crabs, snails, and abalone lose cover from predators. Even plankton production decreases as the system loses the kelp's contribution to photosynthesis. The chain reaction continues upward. Fewer fish mean fewer seabirds, fewer seals, and fewer nutrients cycling through the coastal web. The loss of a single predator cascades into a collapse of an entire biome. Urchins are perfectly adapted for such conquest. Unlike many grazers, they can endure starvation for astonishing lengths of time. In barren zones where food is scarce, they enter a quasi-dormant state, shrinking their internal organs to conserve energy while maintaining mobility and reproductive ability. Their metabolism slows, but their jaws never stop working. Even in famine, they continue to scrape at any remaining traces of algal life. This ability makes urchin barrens self-perpetuating. Once established, they resist recovery for decades unless something interrupts the cycle. These barrens now stretch across vast portions of the Pacific, from California to Alaska and around parts of Japan and Chile. The trigger is often human-driven. Overfishing of otters, lobsters, or sea stars removes natural controls, allowing urchin populations to explode. The purple urchin, in particular, has become infamous for its role in this ecological collapse. In California, populations once limited to a few per square meter now number in the hundreds on a single patch of reef. The density of spines transforms the seafloor into an alien battlefield, each creature an armored scavenger, waiting for the faintest trace of plant life to devour. Yet nature, when guided, can heal even its deepest wounds. Across the Pacific Rim, scientists and divers have begun to rewrite this story, turning the urchin from villain to participant in restoration. The strategy begins with control, manual culls that mimic the missing predators. In regions like Monterey Bay and British Columbia, teams of divers descend with hammers and hooks, crushing or removing thousands of urchins per dive. It is grueling, repetitive work, but every cleared square meter can become a seedbed for new kelp. In places where otters have not yet returned, these human interventions temporarily assume their role, halting the spread of the barrens. However, culling alone is not enough. The next phase, reseeding, brings the forest back to life. Kelp is extraordinarily fast-growing. Under optimal conditions, giant kelp can extend over half a meter per day, rivaling bamboo in speed. Divers attach kelp spores or juvenile plants, known as sporophytes, to rocky substrates cleared of urchins. Within weeks, thin brown ribbons reach upward, followed by the emergence of full fronds. As these pioneers grow, they restore shade, habitat, and structure, creating conditions that discourage further urchin grazing. Eventually, new life begins to return. Small fish first, then crabs, and later, the complex tangle of organisms that define a healthy forest. An intriguing twist emerges in the aftermath. Not all urchins are destroyed. Some are collected for aquaculture, their gonads, known as uni in culinary terms, considered a delicacy. In Japan and California, restoration programs have established partnerships with fisheries to harvest urchins from barrens and fatten them in controlled tanks using kelp-fed diets. The process not only removes excess grazers from the wild, but turns ecological damage into economic opportunity. The same creatures that once stripped the seafloor bare become agents of recovery when managed intelligently. Meanwhile, the natural predator-prey dynamic is returning in some places without human help. In Alaska and along portions of the Pacific Northwest, sea otters have rebounded after decades of protection. As their numbers rise, they hunt through the barrens, cracking open the overpopulated urchins and releasing pressure on kelp. The forests regrow, thick and radiant. These returning kelp forests once again absorb carbon dioxide, dampen waves, and nurture young fish, a vivid demonstration of how one predator's comeback can reverse an entire collapse. The restoration's effects ripple outward. With kelp recovery, other species rebound in turn. Fish such as rockfish and perch return to their nurseries. Sea stars, once decimated by disease, find shelter and feeding grounds. Even seabirds profit, feeding on the juvenile fish that reappear around the forest edges. Coastal ecosystems operate like interlocking gears. When one begins to turn again, the others follow. The lesson is clear. Biodiversity is not a collection of parts, but a living machine, where each species, from the smallest algae to the largest mammal, carries weight in the balance. In studying these dynamics, scientists have uncovered further nuance in the urchin's story. Not all species contribute equally to destruction. The red urchin, for instance, often remains in check, feeding conservatively and providing valuable habitat for smaller organisms between its spines. It is the purple urchin, smaller, faster breeding and more aggressive, that typically drives barons. Understanding these differences allows restoration teams to target specific species, maintaining a balance rather than eradicating entire guilds. Even within destruction, precision matters. The urchin's physiology itself is an evolutionary marvel. They sense the world not through eyes or ears, but through their entire body. Their spines detect touch and current. Light-sensitive cells in their skin allow them to perceive shadows and motion. This decentralized awareness helps them navigate complex terrains and locate food by subtle gradients of chemical signals. They may lack a brain, yet their collective behavior mimics decision-making, proof that intelligence in nature wears many forms. If the kelp forest represents stability, then the urchin embodies disruption, a necessary force that prevents stagnation, but without boundaries, becomes chaos. In healthy ecosystems, small patches of urchin grazing actually promote diversity by creating gaps for young kelp to grow. The trouble arises only when predators disappear. The line between balance and collapse in this case is razor thin. Standing on a rocky shoreline at low tide, one can sometimes glimpse this transformation in miniature. In one pool, thick stands of kelp wave in the current, their stipes sheltering tiny fish. In another, only bare stone remains, covered by motionless purple shells. Between them lies a story of connection, how the absence of one animal reshapes the fate of countless others. The sea may look eternal, but its equilibrium depends on continual negotiation among its inhabitants. In the years ahead, restoration efforts will face new challenges. Warming oceans weaken kelp growth and favor urchin proliferation. Marine heat waves, such as the blob that spread across the North Pacific in the 2010s, have shown how fragile these systems remain. But they have also shown resilience. In places where otters, divers, and kelp cultivation work in concert, recovery can occur faster than expected. Each surviving patch of forest becomes a seed for the next, proof that the system remembers how to heal itself when given the chance. The sea urchin's dual identity, as both destroyer and participant in restoration, encapsulates a broader truth about ecological balance. No creature is inherently villainous or virtuous. Context determines its role. The same evolutionary adaptations that make the urchin destructive in excess also make it indispensable in moderation. It is a reminder that ecosystems are not wars between good and evil, but negotiations of power, timing, and restraint. Under the returning canopy of kelp, where sunlight once again flickers through the forest columns, a single urchin crawls along the rocky floor. Above it, a shadow passes. A sea otter, rolling lazily in the shallows, stone clutched to its chest. The predator cracks open its quarry, and fragments of purple shells scatter through the water. The cycle closes. Ruin gives way to renewal. The forest breathes again, its roots held in the teeth of its oldest adversary. The sea at dawn glows like brushed glass, soft green light refracted through a moving skin of ripples. Down below, on the outer slopes of a coral reef, shadows drift in slow formation. Among them moves a shape both ancient and deliberate, a green sea turtle gliding toward a cluster of coral heads that hums with tiny motion. Its shell is mottled bronze and olive, scarred from decades of travel. Algae cling to its carapace like moss on old stone, and faint lines of encrusting sponges mark the years of its pilgrimage across oceans. But this morning, it comes not to graze or rest, it comes for a cleaning. The turtle slows as it nears a coral outcrop alive with color and motion. Small surgeonfish, wrasses and tangs flicker in and out of crevices, darting like sparks. To the untrained eye, it looks like chaos, but this is an organized station, a marketplace of maintenance. Here, in one of nature's most curious exchanges, fish remove parasites, dead tissue and algae from larger clients, predators and prey alike. Every visitor follows the same unspoken rule: peace while the cleaning lasts. For a predator, it is a momentary truce. For a turtle, it is both hygiene and survival. The green sea turtle positions itself with almost ceremonial care, hovering above the coral while gentle currents sway its flippers. It extends its neck and raises its front limbs as if in surrender. Instantly, the cleaners converge. Blue tangs and striped wrasses begin to nibble along the shell, each fish specializing in its zone. Surgeonfish scrape the algae with precise sideways flicks of their scalpel-like tails. Wrasses probe under the scutes, removing tiny crustaceans and worms. The turtle does not move. It lets them work, eyes half-lidded in stillness. From the perspective of the reef, this is more than a service. It is an ecosystem choreography that keeps both client and environment in equilibrium. The turtle's shell, though built for endurance, is prone to colonization by algae and sessile organisms. As these layers thicken, they increase drag, making long-distance travel inefficient. A heavily fouled turtle can expend up to a quarter more energy on swimming, forcing it to feed more often and migrate less efficiently. By visiting cleaning stations, turtles restore the sleekness that evolution designed for their migrations, journeys that span thousands of kilometers between feeding grounds and nesting beaches. But the partnership does not end with the turtle's benefit. The cleaner fish gain not just nutrition but security. In the open sea, small reef fish are always a heartbeat away from predation. Here, however, their role grants them immunity. Clients from sharks to rays to turtles refrain from attack. The reef's cleaning stations are neutral zones, miniature sanctuaries governed by trust. When a turtle glides in, the fish recognize subtle signals: slow approach, flippers tucked, posture relaxed. In response, they adjust their behavior, emerging boldly into open water to begin their meticulous work. It is a momentary suspension of the food chain, proof that cooperation can override instinct when survival demands it. The green sea turtle, despite its name, owes its color not to its shell, but to the layer of fat beneath its skin, tinted by a herbivorous diet rich in seagrasses and algae. In adulthood, these turtles function as mobile lawnmowers of the marine world. Along coastal meadows, they graze seagrass beds to a uniform height, encouraging regrowth and preventing overgrowth that can suffocate young shoots. On coral reefs, they serve another purpose: clearing algae that competes with corals for sunlight and space. Without such grazers, reefs risk being overrun by algal mats that smother polyps and block photosynthesis. This dual role, as both client and caretaker, makes the turtle an unintentional steward of the reef. After its cleaning, it often drifts toward the outer flats, where the reef transitions into a carpet of macroalgae. There, with deliberate bites, it shears through the dense growth. The act seems simple, but its consequences ripple outward. By consuming fast-growing algae, the turtle frees coral surfaces for larval settlement. In ecological terms, it acts as a biological filter, maintaining the balance between coral growth and algal expansion. Without it, many reefs would slide toward what marine biologists call phase shift, a transition from coral-dominated ecosystems to algal wastelands. In this relationship lies an intricate circle of reciprocity. The turtle's feeding reduces the algae that would otherwise overwhelm coral and smother cleaner stations. By keeping those stations healthy, it ensures that the next generation of cleaners can service the next generation of turtles. Mutual benefit woven through distance, behavior, and time, a quiet loop of maintenance stretching across decades and kilometers. Every detail of the turtle's body reflects this evolutionary contract with the sea. Its shell is a masterpiece of engineering, flattened for streamlining, each scute overlapping like armor plates. The forelimbs have evolved into flippers capable of graceful flight underwater, propelling the animal with smooth, sweeping arcs. Despite its bulk, an adult can weigh more than 150 kilograms, it moves with the elegance of a bird in slow motion. Beneath the carapace lies a heart tuned for endurance. The turtle can slow its pulse to a few beats per minute during long dives, conserving oxygen as it grazes or rests among reefs. But for all its adaptations, the turtle's dependence on the reef's community is profound. Juveniles, still vulnerable to predators, often spend years in these shallower systems, feeding and cleaning before venturing into open ocean. Here, they learn the patterns of the ecosystem, the currents, the timing of plankton blooms, the location of feeding grounds. Cleaning stations in this sense become more than hygiene points. They are social nodes, gathering places where multiple species cross paths in peaceful interaction. Underwater cinematographers have documented remarkable sequences at these stations. Turtles often wait in queues alongside parrotfish, rays, even reef sharks, each taking its turn as the cleaners rotate clients. Some turtles return to the same station for years, forming what appears to be a memory map of trusted partners. The fish too develop recognition, responding faster to familiar individuals than to strangers. It is a subtle, transactional intelligence driven not by loyalty but by efficiency. In this underwater economy, reputation matters, and yet the system is fragile. When reefs decline from warming or pollution, cleaner fish populations plummet. The stations vanish, and with them, the turtle's ability to maintain healthy shells. Biofouling increases, migration efficiency drops, and the turtle's role as algal regulators diminishes, a cascade that mirrors the very dependencies it once stabilized. The loss of coral is not just the loss of color or beauty, it is the dismantling of invisible alliances that have governed marine balance for millions of years. Even so, green sea turtles adapt with quiet resilience. They shift feeding grounds, explore deeper reefs, or turn to alternative cleaning strategies, rubbing against rough corals or driftwood to scrape away fouling. In certain coastal zones, divers have even observed turtles using mooring lines or ship hulls as makeshift scrub stations, a behavior that blends instinct with innovation. Their persistence underscores an evolutionary truth. Survival favors flexibility as much as specialization. As sunlight intensifies overhead, the turtle finishes its session. The surgeonfish disperse, darting back into the reef, their meal complete. The turtle gives a slow, powerful stroke and begins its ascent. Air glitters from its nostrils as it breaks the surface, drawing a deep breath before descending again. From above, the shell gleams clean and bronze, each scute reflecting light like wet stone. The drag of algae is gone, the hydrodynamics restored. For this traveler, efficiency is everything. It must cross oceans to nest, feed, and return again to the same beaches where it hatched decades ago. Back on the reef, the cleaners resume their rhythm. Another client, perhaps a grouper or a parrotfish, slides into position. Life continues, synchronized by necessity. The turtle will return, and the reef will welcome it, because in the vast arithmetic of the sea, no creature truly stands alone. Every exchange, every nibble, every scrape, every bite, forms part of a ledger written in tides and time. The green sea turtle, often seen as a symbol of calm endurance, is in truth a participant in constant maintenance. It cleans and is cleaned, gives and takes, regulates and restores. Its slow grace belies an ecological urgency, a reminder that balance is not a state to be achieved once, but a discipline maintained every day by the quiet cooperation of life. In the shimmer of the reef's shallows, this balance plays out continuously, ancient, precise, and endlessly alive. When the last streaks of daylight fade from the surface, the reef exhales. Colors drain into darkness, and the once crowded world of bright fish and hunting jacks folds itself into sleep. But beneath this hush, on the sandy plain at the edge of the coral, something begins to stir. From cracks and burrows, antennae emerge first, slow, deliberate feelers waving through the dim water, tasting the night. Then, one by one, armored figures crawl out of their fortresses. The lobsters are on the move. Under moonlight filtered through the shallows, their bodies glow faintly bronze and crimson, segmented like ancient armor. Their eyes, perched on stalks, reflect the faint glimmer like twin pinpoints of embers. For hours they have waited through daylight's dangers, hidden from groupers, octopuses and moray eels that dominate the reef's hierarchy. But now, as predators retreat to rest or deeper hunting grounds, the lobsters claim the stage. They gather in remarkable order. From separate shelters, holes beneath coral heads, cracks between rocks, burrows dug into sand, they converge into single lines that snake across the sea floor. 10, 20, even 50 individuals may join a column. The formation is precise. Each lobster keeps its antennae touching the carapace of the one ahead, maintaining contact like climbers roped together in a fog. Their pace is slow but constant, a measured crawl across the reef's desert. To an observer drifting above, it looks like an armored pilgrimage, a nocturnal procession of miniature tanks bound by purpose. Marine biologists call these formations lobster trains. They are not random gatherings, but a complex behavioral adaptation driven by survival, migration, and cooperation. Each participant follows a chemical trail laid by the ones in front, pheromone cues mixed with subtle disturbances in the sand and water. These trails act like underwater highways, guiding lobsters toward feeding grounds or new shelter zones. It is a navigation system that predates modern civilization by millions of years, the original chemical GPS. The march serves several functions. Safety is foremost. A single lobster is vulnerable, its movement noisy, its scent easy for predators to track. But together, their numbers confuse scent trails, and the forest of spines and antennae forms a living barrier. Moray eels, or nurse sharks that patrol the reef at night, hesitate to strike into such a cluster. They know that attacking one could provoke a defensive storm of claws and spikes. Even cannibalism, a risk among lobsters during solitary foraging, diminishes within the train. The march imposes a fragile truce among creatures otherwise known for territorial aggression. In many regions, especially the Caribbean and the Western Atlantic, these migrations occur seasonally. As water temperatures drop or storms disturb the shallow reef, spiny lobsters leave their shelters en masse, heading toward deeper, more stable habitats. They may travel for days across open sand plains, terrain devoid of cover where predation risk is high. Yet their instinct for unity endures. The line may stretch for dozens of meters, sometimes splitting and reforming as they navigate obstacles. Scientists tracking these movements have found that the columns maintain cohesion even when individuals are temporarily separated by currents, guided back by chemical traces released from specialized glands near their antennae and legs. What drives such precision? Partly it is evolutionary inheritance. The Caribbean spiny lobster, Panulirus argus, one of the best-studied species, has evolved extraordinary sensory systems. Along its antennae and appendages lie arrays of chemoreceptors and mechanoreceptors that can detect minute changes in water chemistry and vibration. Each lobster can smell the hormones and waste molecules of its kin and interpret them as directional signals. Even damaged individuals, missing limbs or antennae, can rejoin the group by following residual cues along the sea floor. In essence, each lobster carries a built-in chemical compass that aligns with the herd's collective scent. During these marches, they forage as they travel. Their diet is catholic: dead fish, mollusks, bits of coral tissue and algae. They are the recyclers of the reef, consuming what others discard. After the groupers and morays have fed, the lobsters sweep in like a cleanup crew, scavenging the remains. Their strong mandibles crush shells with ease, aided by enzymes in their digestive glands that dissolve calcium carbonate. This dual role, scavenger and recycler, makes them essential to the reef's nutrient economy. In taking the waste of others, they return minerals to the cycle, fueling new growth in algae and invertebrates. The social tolerance that defines their night guilds contrasts sharply with their daytime solitude. When dawn approaches, the same individuals that traveled shoulder to shoulder will retreat to their dens and often fight over space. Inside a single crevice, several lobsters may cram together in uneasy cohabitation, each angling its spines outward like a forest of thorns. Yet even this behavior has function. Shared shelters reduce the need to excavate new burrows, preserving the structure of the reef and minimizing exposure during rest. Within these communal dens, lobsters communicate through vibrations, rapid rubbing of antennae or carapace plates that generate clicks. These signals establish hierarchies and spacing, maintaining order in cramped quarters. Lobsters are not entirely nocturnal out of preference but necessity. Their eyes, though complex, are adapted to dim light. Each is composed of thousands of square-shaped facets that reflect light internally, a design known as a reflective superposition eye, uniquely efficient in low illumination. Under bright sun, however, these optical mechanisms saturate, rendering vision poor. Hence, darkness is both cover and clarity. Their world truly comes alive only after sunset. In the Caribbean, divers sometimes encounter entire fields of lobsters marching across white sand, their antennas forming a trembling canopy that seems to sway with the current. They advance steadily, unhurried, immune to human presence. The sight borders on surreal, dozens of armored invertebrates navigating as one mind through an alien landscape. No verbal coordination, no central leader, only chemistry, instinct, and shared purpose. This collective intelligence, born of evolutionary pressure, resembles the schooling of fish or the flocking of birds, yet it operates through entirely different senses. The implications reach beyond biology. These migrations help stabilize ecosystems by redistributing biomass. Lobsters that move from overpopulated reefs to underpopulated ones spread their influence, preventing local depletion of resources. Their waste, rich in nitrogen and phosphorus, fertilizes sediments far from their origin. In this way, the march itself becomes an act of ecological redistribution, a nightly flow of nutrients carried in armored bodies across the seabed. But there is also vulnerability in their unity. The same coordination that protects them from natural predators makes them easy targets for human ones. Fishermen have long exploited the predictability of lobster migrations. Knowing the timing and routes of these nocturnal treks, they deploy traps and nets along the corridors, intercepting the march before it reaches deeper refuge. Overfishing, coupled with habitat degradation, has caused severe declines in many regions. The slow reproduction rate of lobsters compounds the problem. Females carry eggs for months, and juvenile survival rates are low. The delicate social behaviors that evolved over millions of years can unravel within decades when the population structure collapses. In areas where conservation measures have been implemented, marine reserves, seasonal bans, and trap limits, the results are striking. Within a few years, lobsters return to their former abundance. Migrations resume, and reefs once stripped of scavengers regain their natural balance. These recoveries demonstrate the resilience embedded in the species' social fabric. When given space and safety, the lobsters rebuild their networks instinctively, as if guided by memory older than human history. At the physiological level, the resilience stems from their regenerative ability. A lobster can regrow lost claws or antennae across successive molts. The molting process, during which the animal sheds its exoskeleton to grow, is perilous. It leaves the lobster soft and defenseless for several days. Many individuals retreat into dens or join others for mutual protection during this stage. The vulnerability fosters cooperation, reinforcing social bonds that extend into their nocturnal gatherings. Even apparent aggression within shelters is tempered by this mutual dependence. No lobster survives alone for long. As the night deepens, the reef pulses with quiet movement. The lobster train moves onward, crossing from coral to sand, from sand to rubble plain. Their shadows flicker over the moonlit bottom like moving hieroglyphs. Occasionally a predator tests the formation, a snapper darts in, a nurse shark circles, but the line holds. A flurry of antennae and raised tails wards off the attack, and the predator drifts away. By dawn, the procession will disperse. Each lobster will return to its chosen shelter, antennae folded, claws tucked, as shafts of morning light pierce the shallows once again. To the casual diver, they will seem like isolated creatures, reclusive, armored, almost mechanical. But the night reveals their true nature, a guild of scavengers bound by chemical communication, discipline, and shared purpose. Their marches are not random. They are the heartbeat of the reef's underworld, regulating decay and renewal in equal measure. Where other animals hunt or flee, the lobster moves in calculated solidarity, an ancient brotherhood of armor that has survived for more than 100 million years. In the dim half-light of the deep reef, where sound dies quickly and sight is limited to faint silhouettes, the lobster's march endures, a quiet testament to the power of cooperation among the seemingly solitary. The reef above may sleep, but below the gill advances, step by deliberate step, ensuring that nothing in this vast ecosystem ever truly stands still. In the calm shallows of a Caribbean reef, just beyond the drop where sunlight fades to turquoise haze, a shadow flickers between coral heads. Then another. The water seems to ripple with slow, deliberate motion. From behind a brain coral rises a creature that looks less like a hunter and more like a piece of underwater art. Delicate, symmetrical, hypnotic. But those graceful fins, those floating plumes of velvet red and ivory, conceal one of the ocean's most efficient and unsettling invaders, the lionfish. To an untrained eye, it appears serene. Its wide pectoral fins flare like silk fans, undulating with every pulse of the current. Its dorsal spines, thin and translucent, sway in rhythm with the water as if merely ornamental. Yet every flick, every tiny adjustment of those fins is a calculation, a precise manipulation of flow and perception. The lionfish is not swimming for leisure, it is corralling prey. Few marine predators hunt with such quiet choreography. In the micro-theater of a coral crevice, a cloud of juvenile fish huddles for safety, darting left and right as danger approaches. The lionfish advances slowly, herding them not with speed or aggression, but with geometry. Its fins form a living net, blocking escape routes. With every gentle flare, it reshapes the corridor of water, nudging its victims toward an invisible funnel. The fish, disoriented by the expanding wall of striped fins, make the one fatal decision the lionfish intends. They stop moving. The predator freezes too, mouth hovering inches away. For a moment the reef holds its breath. Then, with the suddenness of a camera shutter, the lionfish strikes. The vacuum it creates is instantaneous. Water and prey vanish in a single gulp. The lionfish's mouth expands wider than seems possible, capable of engulfing a fish half its own length. Within seconds, the predator resets, resuming its serene glide as though nothing happened. This combination of elegance and lethality has earned the lionfish its paradoxical reputation, a predator that kills with beauty. But behind that spectacle lies a biological arsenal honed over millennia. Each of the lionfish's 13 dorsal spines, along with its pelvic and anal spines, contains venom glands capable of delivering one of the most painful stings in the marine world. The venom is not designed to kill large prey, it is a defensive weapon, a guarantee against retaliation. Even sharks and groupers, which might otherwise eat a fish of its size, learn quickly to avoid those radiating plumes. Native to the Indo-Pacific, lionfish evolved among equally armed and alert competitors. In those waters, their population remained balanced by natural predators, moray eels, large groupers, even certain types of scorpionfish. But when humans introduced them, accidentally or otherwise, into the Atlantic and Caribbean in the late 20th century, the balance fractured. Freed from their natural checks, lionfish populations exploded. Now they dominate the very reefs they once would have shared. From Florida to Bermuda, from the Yucatan to the Bahamas, they sweep through coral systems with the precision of an occupying force. Scientists have recorded densities as high as 400 individuals per hectare, far beyond anything seen in their native range. The results are catastrophic. A single adult lionfish can consume more than 30 small fish in a day, and its appetite is indiscriminate. Gobies, wrasses, parrotfish, juveniles of commercially important species. Over time, these losses strip reefs of their herbivores, the fish that graze on algae and keep corals clean. Without them, algal mats overgrow and suffocate coral polyps. Entire reef ecosystems can shift toward decline, all triggered by a predator whose beauty conceals its hunger. Yet, paradoxically, the lionfish is also a model of cooperative precision. Though most individuals hunt alone, scientists have documented small hunting groups, pairs or trios coordinating attacks in slow synchrony. When two lionfish work together, they position themselves on opposite sides of a prey cluster, using their fins to alternately compress and release space, guiding the fish into striking range for each other. Such cooperation is rare among reef fish, especially ambush predators. It suggests a level of behavioral flexibility more often associated with cephalopods or mammals. They are not social in the mammalian sense, but in these moments of tactical alignment, they become something more than solitary assassins. They become a cartel. Even more fascinating is their apparent ability to communicate through subtle fin signals. Observers have noted that before a group strike, one lionfish often flicks its dorsal fin or shifts its position laterally, as though signaling readiness. The others respond by aligning their orientation and freezing briefly, an underwater semaphore of intent. In the quiet of the reef night, such gestures replace sound. Whether it is true communication or instinctive pattern mimicry remains debated, but the effect is the same: coordination without chaos. The lionfish's hunting success also depends on its remarkable energy efficiency. Unlike fast-chase predators such as tuna or barracuda, it does not expend energy in pursuit. Instead, it relies on patience and misdirection. Its ornate fins diffuse water pressure, masking the approach that would otherwise alert prey through the lateral line, a sensory system that detects vibration. To its victims, the lionfish is not a moving object but part of the drifting reefscape. This sensory camouflage, combined with ambush strategy, gives it one of the highest prey capture success rates ever recorded among marine fish. And yet this mastery of predation carries a vulnerability: the absence of fear. Having evolved among creatures that could kill it, the lionfish in the Atlantic has no concept of restraint. It spreads to every habitat: reefs, mangroves, even brackish estuaries. It spawns year-round, each female releasing as many as 2 million eggs per year in buoyant gelatinous sacs that drift on ocean currents. The larvae disperse far beyond the reach of control, settling wherever coral, rock, or artificial structures provide shelter. They can tolerate a wide range of salinities and temperatures, giving them an ecological reach unmatched by most tropical species. In this unchecked expansion, humans have become both adversary and reluctant ally to the reef. Divers across the Caribbean and Gulf of Mexico now stage organized lionfish derbies, community hunts designed to remove as many individuals as possible. The events have evolved into both conservation and culture, part science, part sport, part necessity. Spearfishers glide through the shallows, armed not with malice but with restoration in mind. Their collected catch often becomes a culinary reward. Lionfish meat, mild and delicate, is now served in restaurants from Belize to the Florida Keys. In an ecological irony, eating the invader has become an act of protection, but culling alone cannot erase the lionfish's advantage. Their reproduction rate and adaptability outpace human removal by magnitudes. Instead, scientists now look to ecology itself for countermeasures, training native predators to recognize and consume lionfish. Experiments have shown groupers and sharks learning through association and opportunism to attack wounded or cornered individuals. The process is slow, but it suggests that even ecosystems can adapt through experience. Nature, though slow to react, rarely remains static forever. In the meantime, understanding how lionfish hunt together may hold the key to managing them. In certain Caribbean reefs, divers have documented the herding ring, a behavior in which multiple lionfish encircle a coral head, taking turns flushing and ambushing prey. It is an eerie echo of wolf-pack strategy beneath the waves, a reminder that cooperation, even among venomous loners, can emerge when opportunity aligns. The reef's other inhabitants have few defenses against this novel tactic. Juvenile fish freeze at the wrong cues, accustomed to different predators. Even the cleaners, wrasses that should flee from ambush, mistake the lionfish's slow approach for the calm of a harmless grazer. Evolution simply has not caught up. Yet for all their dominance, lionfish are not invincible. Their very abundance makes them predictable. Reef managers now monitor spawning aggregations, using sonic deterrents and artificial structures to concentrate populations for removal. In Belize, artificial reefs have been designed as lionfish traps, mimicking ideal ambush structures that lure the predators away from living coral. And where removal efforts are consistent, local ecosystems rebound surprisingly fast. Algal cover declines, juvenile fish return, and corals regain color and vigor. It is proof that even against an invader as elegant as the lionfish, persistence matters more than force. Seen through the lens of evolution, the lionfish is both marvel and menace, proof that beauty and destruction often share the same blueprint. Its ornate design, those feathered fins and striking stripes, evolved not to charm but to warn, to defend, to deceive. What humans perceive as beauty is, in biological truth, strategy. In the quiet dark of the reef, where light falls in shifting blades and predators move like whispers, the lionfish's perfection of form is its deadliest weapon. As night deepens, the velvet cartel disperses. One by one, the hunters vanish into the coral labyrinth, leaving only the faint shimmer of fins fading into shadow. The reef settles once more, unaware that its balance has shifted again. Somewhere, another clutch of eggs drifts upward into the current, translucent and untouchable, beginning the next wave of invasion. The lionfish does not conquer with speed or strength. It conquers with patience, beauty, and cooperation. In the endless chess game of the ocean, it has made its move. Now the sea and humanity must learn how to answer.